Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the zoo. The minions with me tonight are JenTMaxi,
Hello.
Adam,
How's it going?
Hate Camel,
Good evening.
and SkepTock.
Hi.
Wait, did I just get upgraded?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you are still a traveling exhibit, aren't you?
I
Oh yeah, get back down there.
was gonna say that's like twice that happened today. Then
So, SkepTock,
Yes.
and then
Oh,
traveling
oh.
exhibit. To correct that, Hate Camel.
hello again.
And, of course, I'm the keeper for the night, Sanguine. How are all of you doing tonight?
I am well.
I'm too honest for my own good, apparently, because no, I went up to my local corner store earlier today and went to go get a fountain drink, and they have one of those deals where, buy 5 get the 6th one free or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I had used my free one last night. I go in today, I get one. So she's like, it rang up free. I was like, but I just got the free one yesterday. I have not drank that many sodas in the past 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
The lady behind me's like, it's free. Quit asking questions.
Yeah, I'm also that sort of person that if I notice a discrepancy like that, even if it's in my favor, I tend to go, no, that's not supposed to be this one. Here's the money, take it.
I don't know why my brain goes to these kind of places, but that imagery that I had from that comment was like, if your pee could come out the way it goes in, it would come out bubbly from that much. I'm glad it doesn't work like that though.
That'd be weird if the carbonation was sustained through your
Right.
digestive
Hold
system.
on.
Right.
Hold on. And then you guys are gonna sit there and say, "Hey, Adam, are you Eagle Balls?" Like,
We forgot to ask Jen.
Yes, but you know what? I am a little bit ego balls, but here's the thing. I would still make that question even if I was sober because my brain just I don't know why my brain went to that place, but it's probably because earlier today I was thinking about food dyes.
I mean, to be fair, Adam, I made that comment once in chat. We talked about it at length on a stream. I've been using the Marley scale here recently. Do I not get any credit?
No, you get one credit because I actually just sat and let I let myself get defeated in a Bomberman 64 Battle Royale. Yeah, because I was thinking about this fucking Eagles ball thing. Yeah, but I still blame you.
I told you, man. Game recognized game. That's all it was.
But yes, before stream, we were talking about an article that Camel had found today, and also talking about China in general. Do we want to go first to the article and then to China in general?
Sure.
Yeah, works for
Sounds
me.
good.
Let me share the screen. And is there anyone who is dying to read, or shall I?
I mean,
Who's-
you can go ahead and read, and I'll take over if you got to step away for the food. Do you want to do the food porn? You want to get that out of the way first before we jump into this, or?
Oh, sure. If we want to quickly talk about food porn. I just finished making my dinner for the night, which is a lovely bit of salmon that I just did very simply. Bit of salt each side, threw it into a nice and hot cast iron skillet with a little bit of oil, just to give it a sear on each side, a little bit of crust. Pulled it out, done and dusted for that. Just put on some green sauce that I've made, which that particular green sauce is spinach, garlic, a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of broth just to loosen it up a bit more. Beautiful. A little bit of salt, of course, for flavor, a little bit of pepper for flavor as well. Only not black pepper, but grains of paradise. Because I can't stand black pepper. Grains of paradise. Fucking delicious. Then I have a combo of a German and Japanese potato salad, which Have any of you ever had a Japanese potato salad other than?
Sounds kind of fascist.
Hold on, I was gonna say, yeah, you could have.
The
could've
Axis
added-
salad.
You should
You
have
know,
added
I'm not
something
really
Italian
sure
to
where
it
they
and
would
just
go with
completed it.
their potato salads, because sometimes they'll take a thing and go somewhere different. Like I could see them doing something with eggs or something. I don't know why.
You know, I just feel so bad for Evolved in chat right now.
Why?
Talking about eating his kin.
Ah,
But
I
Hey.
feel you, man. I feel the same way every time I hear someone call Kamala Harris Camel Toe Harris. It's like, oh, you know, just,
Ew.
it cuts a little
Yeah.
deep.
well, yeah.
do not
you-
involve her with my feet.
oh, yeah. No, that's gross. Oh God, no.
But yeah, the Japanese potato salad is kind of interesting if you've never had one, because what it is kind of like a bastard child between a mashed salad and not mashed. So
Okay.
it has just a very rough kind of smashing done to it, so that you get some creamy bits where the
Mhm.
potatoes are pretty much mashed up, but then you also have these chunks of potato throughout.
Yeah.
Then mix in a bit of green onion, some celery, and a little bit of carrot.
Okay, the carrot's different. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So
Is it like a vinaigrette style or?
it is still normally a vinaigrette with a little bit of mayo.
Yep.
I substituted
Ew.
aioli for mayo. That way
Okay.
it has more flavor. But the rest of the preparation was done in a much more standard German potato salad style.
Yeah. What kind of potatoes did you use?
I used a combination of Yukon Gold and Red.
Okay.
Both
Okay.
of them skin on, so
Yep,
that
yep.
I get a nice bit of flavor, nice bit of texture to it, and then, like I said, that mixture of mashed, partially mashed, and not at all mashed
Mhm.
potatoes blended together, just absolutely delicious.
Yeah, that sounds similar to what my grandmother would do. I mean, she's Austrian, so
Mhm.
not German, but German. Don't say that to them; they get mad at you.
Oh,
Hey,
no.
Sanguine.
They
Sanguine.
knew how to bake, didn't they? Oh,
Yes, Skep?
I'm curious about the salmon. Was it wild salmon or garden grown?
It was, I believe, farmed, because it is a. I got a nice big piece of it, and I did part of it as sashimi because it was a sushi grade, and then just lightly seared each
If
side.
it's sushi, if it's sushi grade, it's almost certainly wild. Do you know why?
Is it the trying to remember? It's
Anisocyatic
bacteria or-
anisocyatic nematodes. It's a parasite.
Yep.
That's in the farm salmon, and so the wild salmon is usually the only stuff that is sushi or sashimi grade.
Okay, I couldn't remember whether it was the wild or the farmed that had more of those. So
Yeah.
it's the farm that have more of those.
Yeah, the farmed is just it's wriggling with them,
Copy that.
and they're not terribly harmful. They attach to the inside of your esophagus and give you an infection. And if they make it into the stomach, they will you'll get a little case of gastroenteritis, and but it passes very quickly.
Mhm.
Spudgum, they're always swamp Germans because they got broke after a while. You have to remember that they used to be part of that Holy Roman Empire shit. You know that they had their own empire. That's why the Germans don't like them. They're the rich Germans who were like, oh, we're better than you.
They had several different iterations of their own empire.
Did. Yeah, they were snotty too. It's just one of those things. Like I'm not saying that it's flack. I'm just saying that's a lot of little things that you hear them bitching them about. So
Mhm. And yeah, Amish potato salad is very similar to German potato salad. I think there's just like one or two ingredient tweaks, but that's about it.
There's no electricity, right?
That too. It makes it so you have to use a different heating source in order to get your hot Amish potato salad versus your
Right.
hot German salad. But
You have to use a wood fire.
mhm.
wood-fired oven.
But yeah, otherwise, German potato salad and Amish potato salad, pretty much identical. Both of them use that vinegar mustard base, which is amazing. I love ridiculously vinegar.
Have you ever
potato
tried? Have you ever tried making one of their hot potato salads? I've actually wanted to try doing that because they look really nice.
Most of the time, if you're talking German potato salad, it's a hot potato salad.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those. I mean, it doesn't hurt that they have a lot of those have bacon in them. I'm sorry, potatoes with bacon.
Hold on. If I hear hot potato salad, all I think of is just mashed potatoes with whatever you're going to add to it. And in this case, bacon bits and whatever. Hey, you want to add?
It's not mashed potatoes, really.
No,
It's cut up potatoes.
Yeah, it's more cubed potatoes.
Yeah, but if it's hot, it's just going to get mashed either way.
Well, yeah.
No.
Well, not really, because it's you're not cooking them so much that they're necessarily mashing. Like you're cooking them all the way, but they're still going to be solid.
Hold on. Are they solid? How soft are they? How soft are we talking these potato cubes?
It's a potato salad.
It's about the same toughness as like a baked potato.
Yeah.
So you can poke it with a knife. Knife goes through without any problems.
As a baked potato.
Yes.
Without skin.
Without the skin.
Dude, that's gonna just become mashed potatoes. You just stir it up.
If you just keep on smashing it, sure, but
Well, yeah.
if you don't,
I don't know.
just
Maybe that's
mangle
my
your food,
fucking-
then it
well,
stays
yeah.
cubes.
Again, that's perhaps just my.
I mean,
Heathen
don't get me
fucking-
wrong, Mr. Adam. There's probably the odd German dude who's probably a heathen who does that to their hot potato salad. Who just
No.
sits there and
No,
mashes it up.
just-
But there's always one heathen at the table who likes to do that.
I'm just sitting here laughing at all you guys talking about this food in such detail. My palate is like one step above a trash panda's. I had a cheeseburger and fries for like dinner the third time this week tonight.
Well, no, because I'm looking at it. I'm like, dude, I would have just. You gave me a plate of this, and I would just like stirred it all up and like.
Yeah, you'd be fine, and you'd eat it. It'd be fine because a lot of those are just like there's different varieties of it, but the one that I liked was kind of like a creamy one. Like they did it hot, and then they had a dressing that they added to it afterwards, and it's just they do a delicate stir when they do it with the dressing, so it gets all stirred, and it had bacon and I know this part you're not gonna like so much, but they had onions in it, and I'm sorry, I like it because it has that in it, but it was just like, yeah, that's totally warm food. Like that's totally I'm gonna stay inside, and it's a cold ass day outside, and it's nice warm comfort food.
Oh, you know what? Well, on the opposite end, I wouldn't mind trying what's that, cold potato soup or something like that?
Oh, vichyssoise, the potato leek soup.
Is that the Russian soup?
Oh no, are you talking borscht?
Talking about borscht, which is beet soup.
Oh, that's sweet.
It's beet.
Yeah,
beet.
yeah,
Oh.
it's sweet.
It can't be beet,
No,
but it is.
it is a very it's a particular taste. Like you either really like it or you really don't because it's sweet, because the beets are sweet.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's cold.
I've
too,
only
man.
heard,
It's
I've only ever
cold.
heard of like two Russian foods. It's like borscht and salo. That's it.
Now,
Salad.
if you
What is
want to
salad?
cheat,
I have no
with it,
idea. I've only ever heard of it.
Vodka is a Russian food.
Oh,
Well, I would definitely put that as a food group. Yes.
Now,
but-
if
It's
you ever
the
want
reason
to,
why Russia is one of the biggest producers of potatoes globally.
well, I only say this because I want to try. I wouldn't mind, like, the dichotomy of the dichotomy. I don't think, but the difference of the two. A cold soup and a hot soup. I'd like to try both.
that one you can do both ways too. Actually, you can do it cold and you can do it hot. But it's usually served with sour cream. But if you ever want to do something a little bit interesting with it, it's not standard to do. But I just like the concept of making it spicy. So I like to throw things in to make it spicy, so it's got that sweet, but with a little bit of spice to cut that out a little bit.
Sweet with heat.
Yes, it makes it
Sweet
better.
with E?
Yeah, it makes
With
it better.
heat.
Oh,
Well,
sweet with heat.
Yeah.
Now that we've got the chat all good and hungry, want to talk about China?
Oh, and right before we go to China, with that meal, I'm also having a black mead, which this one is a black currant and red raspberry mead.
Nice.
Black mead is just a mead where black currants are involved in the making.
Yeah, every
Just
once in a while, you
mead.
list a booze that does sound like something I might actually try, because I don't actually drink a lot of booze, but that sounds really yummy.
Oh, I try a bunch of different boozes, and I'm always trying to find a good suggestion of another one to add to my repertoire of drinks, just so that I can get a good mix of, well, these are the whiskeys, these are the scotches, these are the sakes and sojus and meads and beers and wines. I like being able to have a variety.
You know what?
Just
Hey,
recently expanded a little bit into brandies for that.
before we get into the news topic, I want to say, we got to talk about Asian soups, because I want to talk about like udons and like all that ramen stuff.
Oh, those are
That's
amazing.
Yeah, it looks fascinating. But let's go into the.
To China.
Before we go to the news event, would you like a little bit of background on what's going on between China and Taiwan, or is everybody up to speed on that?
Wait, what do you
Back
mean?
to the
Like,
political parties in Taiwan and what the efforts at reunification have been, and why.
I would love some background on that. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
At least get us up to date, because I know things have been heated off and on for a while. Actually, like sometimes it gets quiet and.
Sure. All right. Everybody knows that after World War II, the communists came to power and basically ran off the governing body, the recognized government of China, off the mainland, and they repaired to Taiwan and have been governing Taiwan as, in their opinion, the true Republic of China, while the communists took over the 98% of the land area of mainland China. So mainland China wants to reunify with the island of Taiwan. Taiwan is, believe it or not, of mixed opinion about this. There are a lot of political currents going on there. So Taiwan's been governed independently of China since 1949. Beijing says that island is part of our territory. They have vowed that they will eventually unify Taiwan with the mainland, and they will use force if they need to. And so tensions are rising, and President Tsai Ing-wen is his name. His party favors independence, so they're like kind of the conservative Liberty Party. And they have told Beijing to go fly a kite. We're going to stay a democracy and, go get lost. Beijing has ramped up the political and military pressure on Taipei. And of course, there's a big question mark, because the United States provides Taiwan with defensive weapons, and we do a lot of business with Taiwan. We have very, close commercial and military ties with them. But we have never answered the question of whether or not we would come to Taiwan's aid if they were invaded by China. So when Beijing asserts that there's only one China and that Taiwan is part of it, it views the PRC as the only legitimate government of China. Okay, and it calls it the one China principle, and that's the party line in mainland China. And Beijing claims that Taiwan is bound by an understanding known as the 1992 consensus. All right, and this was reached between the guys from the Chinese Communist Party and the Kuomintang KMT party that is in charge of Taiwan. But the two sides don't agree on the content of the so-called consensus. All right. And it was never really intended to address the question of Taiwan's legal status. So for the PRC, for the Chinese President Xi has stated that the 1992 consensus reflects an agreement that the two sides of the strait, and that's the way he talks about it, that the two sides of the strait belong to one China and would work together to seek national reunification. Kuomintang says, nuh-uh, it means one China, different interpretations, with the Republic of China standing as the one China. So they're in charge, okay, of everything, which of course mainland China says, yeah, we'll see about that. So anyway, Taiwan's constitution recognizes China, Mongolia, Tibet, and of course Taiwan as part of the Republic of China. They don't support, and it's a weird thing. It doesn't support Taiwan's independence. It wants to bring mainland China back under its control, and it really does consider itself to be the legitimate democratic leader of China. But here's the thing. They do business with each other, and there are closer and closer commercial ties. And that's actually what I think will ultimately reunify them. If they can just not make war on each other, what will happen is the commercial ties will become so strong that the difference in governing parties will be minimal, and that will be a long-term, pretty stable solution. But as long as the Chinese Communist Party has this, they say, we want you back and we demand that you come under our control. And they take this short-term view because they want, they want the tax revenue, they want the business revenue that they don't get from Taiwan. They want to take it in just the way they did Hong Kong. And these guys on Taiwan want no part of that. So that's just to set the backdrop for the story that Hey Camel brought to us. I thought you guys might like kind of a little look at least my interpretation of what's going on in China right now.
See, you say stuff like that, and it reminds me of stuff that Cryptic likes to tell me, because he's his background enough to know where he comes from.
Yeah, I know where where Cryptic stands on this.
And when it comes to stuff like that, it kind of, I feel like at best or worst, actually, probably for Taiwan, it would be at worst, is China's going to be a little bit hasty because one of the things that Cryptic keeps bringing up is they're still having a pork problem. Like their pork sales are really low because their pigs are still kind of sick, like they're still dying. And so I'm wondering if Taiwan has that problem, because it would make more sense for why they're putting so much pressure on them. Because
you mean that mainland China wants Taiwan for its pigs?
As crazy as it sounds.
I had not heard that, but I didn't think so. I knew about the swine flu thing, but I didn't know.
It's one of those things that when it comes to their party place, one of the promises that they always have to keep to their people is that they always have to provide them with pork, and they have to provide everyone with the ability to have pork. So if they're not able to do that, it kind of causes strife in the mainland. And I don't know how much that affects that kind of stuff, because there's times where you try to make deals with them and it doesn't make sense. Like, the way that they would rather go with coal rather than switch to, like, say for me, I'm in gas land. So for me, I'm always a gas sales person, even if I don't do that as a job. That's kind of my thing. Was like they do have connections with us when it comes to gas. Like they're some of the main businessmen who own some of the biggest oil companies here are Chinese. So I was always kind of surprised that they didn't go that way a little bit more. Because like with us being so close to them, I kind of thought they'd want to try to switch to that a little bit more. Or
well,
like go
3 of their biggest natural resources when it comes to just the raw amount that they have are coal, coke, and iron, which is why they got so big into steel production.
so it just and steel production and oil is kind of a thing too. Like, they're always having to go. It's the same problem that you guys have with going to Afghanistan all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like whereas like we're across the seas from them. It's not that hard to make shipments when you have. But it feels like they were the ones interfering the most with us when it comes to that. Like they're the ones who are more likely to influence Fancy Pants Stupid Head, who, by the way, is really pissed off our native community. Oh yeah, he did. Oh yeah, he did. Because he went on holidays and he just made up a holiday for them, and he wasn't even there for it. It was like, oh yeah, I made this up for you. Watch as I go play blackface for myself and with my family. Go fuck yourself, basically. Oh, and they reelected him too.
I heard about your federal holiday that is just for federal employees.
It's meant to be for the Aboriginals. It's meant to show a reflection for shit that happened in the past, the schools and stuff like that.
I heard that it was named in such a way that it's supposed to do that, but I heard that in practice it was a federal holiday for federal employees and just federal employees.
Yeah. It was.
See, at least for our federal holidays, we get the benefit of the bank being closed to let you know that it's a federal holiday.
The bank holiday.
I have a question about China and coal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, go back. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I didn't mean to derail with that. Like, I was just meaning it was confusing to me as somebody who understands what kind of business they do, why they would do that when what our business is would actually help them.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
China is being pressured by the international community, who holds a lot of paper on China.
Mm-hmm.
Who's lent China a lot of money to cut emissions to a certain level. And with the number of coal plants that they're building, they say that their emissions are going to top out about the year 2030, but nobody else thinks that's not even a good fantasy. It's too silly. And that what China is really doing is it's building these plants, and it's going to dangle them in front of the West, saying, if you don't give us concessions, here's what we're going to do. Because, yes, they do have a boatload of coal, and they have a ton of national resources, and they can continue. I think they get like 65% of their energy from coal. I mean, it really is a lot, and
it's one of the primary household cooking fuels as well.
And so they can continue to do that, but they really would rather not. They would rather switch to cleaner energy because it's getting pretty obnoxious, and the deaths are starting to get embarrassing. The number of people dying from pollution, basically. There are parts of the country where lifespan is substantially shortened simply by the low quality of the air. So they know they've got a problem. They know they want to do something about it. And there seems to be some speculation, at least in American business magazines like Forbes and whatnot, that what they're doing is they're running a game on the West, basically saying, hey, we're going to go ahead and build all this stuff, build out our coal infrastructure, and just completely commit to coal long term, unless we get concessions on our debt, concessions on trade agreements, and drop the tariffs and all this, lots of other things that would favor China. It's basically a power play. What do you think? Do you guys have you sensed any of that? Have you guys read anything about that or know anything about that?
That's kind of the feeling I'm getting.
Like what gave you that feeling? What information that you've encountered gave you that feeling, or is it just intuition?
It has to do with how everything is being run up here. Like our last election was kind of like, oh look at the evidence of it. Like it was just really clear. Like I know the fact that he even ran it at all was just a sign that he was taking tips from somebody. You know, because I think he really
When you
thought.
say he, who are you talking about?
I'm talking about Justin Trudeau. So when he ran this, he really thought that he was going to do it under the bus. Like we weren't all kind of watching him, like flies on shit. Like we are all watching him right now. And when he pulled that shit, he was doing it under the assumption that nobody is doing that. The problem is we're all watching at different angles. Like we're not really, like we're communicating, but we're not really agreeing. And that's why we're still stuck with him. You know, a lot of people were like, yeah, we do want change. We desperately want change, but the change isn't going to come with what we've been offered, because it's the same crowd.
But I'm talking with respect to China.
Yeah, no, I know. That's
Okay.
what I mean. It's one of those things where
You're saying he's not changing his view on China, or he's not going to bring pressure to bear on China?
He's going to use methods that he's picking up from China, is what I'm saying. Like a lot of
he's emulating China. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. I'm not meaning to sound like a little bit out to weirdness there. It's just the way. So I had an argument with my mom today about the vaccine passports, because she keeps bringing it up with people. Like she brought it up with my cousin's new husband, because she thinks that they should be mandatory, that people should have them, because she doesn't believe that it's fair to businesses that people come in and they end up with fines. And I'm sitting there like, don't you think the problem is that the government is giving them fines for letting people in to their store, like for making them force people to have these passports? Like, you don't think that's not the issue? And then I also had to tell her, like, you know, she said, well, you know, I really want to say to these people, fuck your rights. And I was like, Mom, both of my parents come from a generation where they fought in World War II. So hearing her say those words, I don't think I've ever gasped so hard in my life.
Yeah, the moment that you start down the fuck your rights, you've just thrown their rights, your rights, and everyone's rights out the window, because that then makes that a valid argument for everything.
And my parents
you want to say this? Well, fuck your rights. You want to do that? Well, fuck your rights. That's something that should be completely untenable from the start. And
I couldn't believe she'd said that. Now, the thing is both of my parents are conservative. They are very much conservative. They've always been conservative. They've always voted conservative. So it's both parties are pushing that stuff up here. It's not just one party. It is both. All of them are, really, except for Maxime's party. He was the only one who was clear. He was just like, listen, I don't have a problem with businesses telling you they don't want you in there if you don't have a vaccine. But I don't want it mandatory. I don't want it to be something that's enforced. I don't want to force businesses to feel like they have to do that, because he believes in a free market. And that's where I stand. I do believe that if people don't feel comfortable with people coming into their store with something they think could affect their business or their customers or whatever, it's the same to me as the Christian baker who doesn't want to bake a cake for the gays. You know, there's somebody out there who will. You know, and that's where I stand on that. But the minute you start talking like that to me, I couldn't believe it.
And Evolved Potato, that is really fucked. He said about vaccine passports. The Premier of Victoria recently said that unless you get the jab, you're not allowed to work in the state. Which, that's fucked. But going back to Skep's initial question.
Yeah, that's why I think they're creeping in.
China has been doing things like that for ages, where it will find a stance that pushes the right buttons in the global community and kind of put their thumb on it and go, hey, if you do something that we don't like, we'll do this. So you gonna play ball with us, or shall we push our thumb in? And they've done that for goddamn ages with pretty much everything. I have no problem believing that they're doing the same with coal. And also, to respond to something that Evolved Potato said earlier, as I said, China has a massive coal supply, The reason why China does import a lot of coal, though, is because Chinese coal is extremely low quality coal. And what I
Extremely
mean,
high sulfur.
yes, it has high sulfur, and I'm trying to remember. There's another metal impurity.
It has all kinds of metal impurities in it that get into the
I want to say
atmosphere.
it was
It's
mercury.
carcinogenic, and it's probably not mercury, but it doesn't matter which metal it is. It just matters that there's particulate in the air, and it's carcinogenic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of that problem that I was talking about. Sorry.
No, you keep going. Sorry, I'm agreeing with you. That's what the ads are for.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, that's all I was going to say.
It's why I'm confused. I want to make this clear. I don't actually have like a hatred for China. Like that's where I started getting confusion in the first place, was because I always thought that like as Canadians, we would be the best people to really help them get off of it, or at least find an alternative to get it to a level where it's a little bit more manageable for them. Because we do have a lot of gas up here. Like we have struggles with getting past our ocean. Apparently, we have to go through you to do it. Apparently, irritates the shit out of me.
We've just got better port facilities, and we have 25,000 times as much capital to pour into port services and port facilities than you do.
Yeah, and you don't have the population of federal hippies that we do.
Yeah. We're a little more realistic about how we handle international commerce in some ways.
And I'm not even a permanently on gas person either. Like I'm fully well aware of the fact that someday we have to be off of it too. Like it's not a permanent thing. But I thought like if we could get China to a level
stopgaps though. You need
like
gas is a step up from coal.
Yes.
That is almost impossible to really question at this point. I'm willing to
Sanguine, did you notice that China fired up a thorium salt reactor?
They did?
A molten salt. It sure as hell did.
Oh wow.
I did not hear about that.
Yeah. They're experimenting. They've got a prototype up. That's another reason that I think that their commitment to coal is phony.
Like
that makes a lot of sense, especially with the number of areas that they've stretched their influence into that have large deposits, let me phrase it that way, of various radioactives, as well as other rare earths, because the amount that they've stretched into Africa.
Oh yeah, and Pakistan too. The southern part of Afghanistan, northern part of Pakistan has lots of it has uranium ore, and it has rare earths also.
And
the lanthanides are up there.
Use the stretching into areas where China might not belong, to put it lightly. This article, Taiwan reports largest ever incursion by Chinese Air Force. Taipei, October 2nd, so they're in the future right now. That's the reason why it's October 2nd and not October 1st, whereas for many of us, all of us in the call right now, as well as many of our viewers, it is still October the 1st. This just happened after the day change in Asia. Taiwan has reported the largest ever incursion by the Chinese Air Force into its air defense zone, with 38 aircraft flying in 2 waves on Friday as Beijing marked the founding of the People's Republic of China. China's claimed Taiwan has complained for a year or more of repeated missions by... Sorry, that just bothers me. The fact that they phrase it as Chinese claimed Taiwan.
Yeah, it threw me off when I read the article at first, too.
So, I'm just going to cut that off. Taiwan has complained for a year or more of repeated missions by China's Air Force near the democratically governed island, often in the southwestern part of its air defense zone, close to the Taiwan-controlled Protos Islands. The Taiwan Defense Ministry first reported Taiwanese fighters had scrambled against 18 J-16s and 4 Su-30s. Su-30 fighter jets, plus 2 nuclear-capable H-6 bombers and an anti-submarine aircraft. Then in the early hours of Saturday, the ministry said a further 13 Chinese aircraft were involved in a mission on Friday night, 10 J-16s, 2 H-6s, and an early warning aircraft. It said Taiwan sent combat aircraft to warn away the... Warn away? Shouldn't that be ward away rather than warn away?
Well, I'm sure Reuters doesn't want to offend Beijing.
But yes, to drive off the Chinese aircraft while the missile systems were deployed to monitor them. The first batch of Chinese aircraft all flew in an area close to the Protos Islands, with the 2 bombers flying closest to the atoll, according to a map issued by the ministry. The second group flew down into the Beshi Channel that separates Taiwan from the Philippines, a key waterway that links the Pacific with the disputed South China Sea. China has yet to comment on this or on its activity. It has previously said such flights were to protect the country's sovereignty and aimed at collusion between Taiwan and the United States, the island's most important international backer. The previous largest incursion happened in June, involving 26 Chinese
28.
28. I'm having problems reading today. 28 Chinese Air Force craft.
All these Thursdays with Johnny's been rubbing off on you.
Yeah. China's latest mission came less than a day after its government launched an attack on Taiwan's foreign minister, invoking the words of revolutionary leader Mao Zedong to denounce him as a shrilling fly for his efforts to promote Taiwan internationally. Oh yes, who would have thought the Taiwan foreign minister or Taiwanese foreign minister would be promoting Taiwan internationally? Funny thing, that, right? It's not like it's the entire point of his goddamn job. China has stepped up military and political pressure to try and force Taiwan to accept Chinese sovereignty. Taiwan says it is an independent country and will defend its freedom and democracy.
That's a little bit misleading. I'm sorry,
Yep.
but that's something that a reporter just wrote in there. Okay, in point of fact, Taiwan says it's the legitimate government of China. That's what it really says. And for them to say, well, it's an independent country, no, that actually misrepresents what Taiwan actually really does say about itself.
Mm-hmm.
It has to do with the historical thing too. China itself has a lot of problems just because they've been run for so long by the Han. Like my understanding is internally that's kind of been a problem for a lot of different folks.
It's only a problem if you come from South or West China.
Even
if you're a Han, you're okay,
well, exactly. Even if you look at China's history, they've been in turmoil damn near their entire existence. So
for those who don't know, China has something like 46 different recognized distinct cultural groups within it. The Han Chinese are the largest, and they are the ones that make up the majority of the nation. Also, the 2 Han languages are the most common languages within China. The 2 Han languages being Mandarin,
and
which
Cantonese
is the officially recognized language of the People's Republic of China, and Cantonese, which is the officially
That's Hong
recognized
Kong.
language of Hong Kong, and I think, doesn't Taiwan use Cantonese mainly?
No, they're mostly Mandarin. They have a
Oh,
lot
they're
of
mostly-
Cantonese
okay.
speakers, but they're mostly Mandarin.
Hey, not that we're
And I'm
gonna
not
be,
pandering to Mandarin.
not that we're going to be
I just like
having
that line.
teachings on how to speak these languages. If you wanna learn these languages, you go figure that out on your own. But we're just giving you context. Right?
I know. I asked my local Chinese restaurant lady at the counter. It's like, so because it's all like family run. It's like, so do you guys speak Mandarin or Cantonese? Like, we speak both. It's like,
Sweet
oh
God,
shit,
Campbell,
okay.
you're here
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
But understand what it means to speak both, because a college graduate will.
Well, I'm
know-
having trouble just with English. So I mean, the fact that they're speaking that on top of 2 other languages is like, that's impressive to me.
Okay.
Mhm.
A college graduate in China who speaks Mandarin will know probably 8,000 or 9,000 of the pictographs that make up the Chinese language. There's probably on the order of 40 or 50,000. Some people say more.
Mhm.
And there's ways to combine them. You could make that number 100,000. But at any rate, so that's the investment that you and you have to do roughly the same investment to speak Cantonese. So there are very, very few people who speak both at that level. You typically have somebody who speaks Mandarin like a native, has that level of pictographic understanding and ability to, vocalize them and hear and interpret Mandarin. And then they'll probably be able to do about 1,000 of those in Cantonese. That's when they'll start to say they claim to speak Cantonese, and that takes a substantial investment of time. But Cantonese and Mandarin people, they cannot speak to each other, even though they use the same pictographs.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And that's
Yeah.
one thing to mention that not many people know when it comes to the different languages of China, because like I said, there's 46 different ethnic groups. Every single ethnic group has at least one language.
And there are more flavors of Chinese that are spoken by hundreds of millions of people that don't compute with either Mandarin or Cantonese, by the way.
Yep.
Mhm.
And
Just so you know.
some of the versions of Mandarin, especially, that are claimed to be Mandarin, they are unrecognizable
Absolutely.
unless you know that specific dialect. So, for instance, the one that I always call attention to because it's the most well known of this example is Shanghainese.
I've heard of that. Yep.
Shanghainese is only spoken in Shanghai and the surrounding area.
That's a slang name, by the way. Shanghainese.
Yes, I know it is.
That's not an official name.
It's not the official name.
It
It's
just sounds
what it
cool
is
to
called,
me.
like in
I know
common
it's not
parlance.
supposed to, but it sounds cool to me.
But yes, it is often referred to as Shanghainese. It is the language of Shanghai and the surrounding area. It is technically Mandarin. I say technically because it really shouldn't be categorized as Mandarin.
Well,
Considering
it's actually, the name of it is called HU. HU.
Yep. Considering that even the most basic aspects of it are massively different. So, for example, if I remember this correctly, I know I remember the Mandarin correctly. The Mandarin for I is Wu. The Shanghainese, or the Hu, for I is Liang. Liang in Mandarin means two of something. Specifically, two of something.
That's how different these things are.
Yes.
And he's exactly right. You can say, it's kind of like McNamara's error when he was trying to speak Vietnamese. He thought he was saying Vietnam for 1,000 years, and what he said was the duck wants to lie down.
Yep.
that's hilarious.
You can make that kind of an error very easily just going from dialect to dialect. Both the Wu, which is the main dialect of Mandarin, and the Hu, which is what they speak in Shanghai, they're both considered to be Mandarin.
Yep.
They're both called Mandarin. Okay. And it's like French and German, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then to add to that weirdness, not only do they have so many different languages, and even each of those languages has sub-languages that really should be considered their own language, but they aren't for some reason. But with all those languages, there is one written language within all of China.
One set of pictographs.
Yes. Which
they just mean all different things.
Yep, they'll use them differently.
They use them very differently.
But there's only one written language.
Right.
And it's to the point where they'll use, so for specific things, they'll use the different characters in interesting combinations. But that example that I gave of the Wu versus Liang, they both use the same character. So if you write it down,
just to go through the Sinitic languages, just so we don't go down a spurg hole here. Mandarin has 836 million speakers. The Mandarin. The Wu Mandarin has 77 million. Cantonese 71 million. Got the Min families, and that is a family of languages that's mostly Mandarin. This is what's spoke in Taiwan. That's 60 million. Then there's Jin. Okay, that's 45 million. It's kind of a Mandarin offshoot. Then there's one that's off of the Wu part of Mandarin, 36 million. That's called Zhang. Then there's Hatka. Another 34 million speak that. Gan, which nobody can understand, 31 million speak that.
Yep.
Hui, which is kind of a Wu substrate, is like 3 million. And then Pinghua, which is a Cantonese variant that even the Cantonese cannot understand, is spoken by 2 million people.
Yep, and those are just the major ones.
Those are the language groups. Sanguine is exactly right. Those are the families of languages, basically. Although some of those are actually major subgroups of others that I named.
And even when you're talking the families, those are still just the major ones, because then, like I said, there's 46 different ethnicities within China, and each one has at least one language.
So you would think that these are evenly spread across that giant area. You'd be wrong.
Yeah, not at all.
You'd be wrong. Probably, I'm just looking at the map off the top of my head. I'm going to say 80% of the landmass is spoken by the 836 million people who speak Mandarin. And then all of the rest, with the exception of Pinghua, which is that Mongolian weird Cantonese offshoot, except for that, all of them are on the southeast coast. They're all in areas that kind of face Taiwan, and then Taiwan is mostly Min, and the ones that don't speak Min, strangely, are the ones who speak Gan, and that's a language all to itself practically. That's even the Taiwanese. The rest of the Taiwanese can't even understand them. So,
like I said,
and that's the eastern part of Taiwan.
It is ridiculous, the number of different languages and the number of different ethnic groups. And I brought this up yesterday. It also creates some of the weirdest racial stereotypes that I've ever heard. I mentioned this one yesterday, but it bears repeating just because it made me go, what the fuck? There's a group within China, one of the 46 ethnic groups, that, if I remember correctly, it's the Chang is the name of this ethnic group. And the write-up, the official write-up on a government site for the I Chang was, the I Chang are known to be fantastic smiths, but despite this, they are also rather pleasant people.
You know, I find it ironic that I just remembered that I went with the panda tonight for no reason.
And all I can say is, why is there a stereotype that all Chinese smiths are raging assholes, apparently? Because when you have to say that they are known to be fantastic smiths, but despite that, they're rather pleasant, that means that 90% of your smiths are just bastards.
No. I think you're ethnocentrically polluting that, actually. Let me help you.
Okay.
Here's what's really going on. Probably what they say is a lot of people who are good at being smiths, a lot of good smiths come from that area.
Mm-hmm.
Now, smiths are maybe known to be taciturn. It's kind of a solitary occupation.
Mm-hmm.
It attracts a certain sort, kind of the strong and silent type, who maybe they have a stereotype about that person. It isn't that they're unpleasant or anything of the sort, but what happens is the word that comes out, that gets translated as nice and so forth, is really meant to be personable, meaning that they'll talk to you. They're open faced. They're easygoing. They're friendly people. It's a way of saying they produce great craftsmen, yet they're very personable as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing about the Chinese language. It translates so badly into English.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real barrier for English speakers to learn Chinese, and vice versa, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
It's one of the reasons when I talked with Lauren Chen, that's amazing. She speaks Cantonese like she is a native of Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
She speaks English perfectly. I mean, and she is really, she's got it going on as far as that's concerned. I'm absolutely amazed by that. On top of that, she speaks French. It's just not fair.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she's there are people who can do that, but that's quite an achievement. That's really a substantial achievement.
Oh yeah, it's like I'm always slightly jealous of my sister's linguistic ability, because she has something like 6 or 7 different languages that she's fluent in now, including she speaks English, fluent in French. Last I heard, she might have had so long with French that she's now fallen out of fluency with French, but fluent in Russian, Chinese, 1 or 2 different Middle Eastern languages, and then I'm trying to remember what the other one.
What brand of Chinese does she speak?
She spoke Mandarin.
Okay.
So she learned Mandarin, and I think she was beginning to learn Cantonese, but I'm not sure if she ever got Cantonese down pat. She just has an absolutely obscene gift with languages.
It's like some people with music. Like some people don't really need to read sheet music to just play a song.
Mm-hmm.
They can just hear the notes. It's almost like you can feel it when you hear it.
They call it playing by ear. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some people have that with languages. It's just like that ability to hear things.
Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
Japanese was the last language that I was forgetting.
Okay.
She speaks fluent Japanese.
So she knows kanji inside out, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, Japanese brings us to a great segue to the next article.
All right.
Ooh.
Yep. So let me quickly share that. And
Skillfully, the ninja stalked the helicopter pilots.
I'm still picturing, Chris Farley from
Beverly Hills Ninja.
Yeah.
This is from NPR. A ninja with a sword assailed a U.S. Army Special Operations unit in California. I'd just like to say that sword has been chewed to shit.
Well, I think it's in sand, so like the blade's partly
Yeah, the blade is partly obscured. It's in the sand. It just dropped in the sand.
Okay, so it is just sand then.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's from when the sheriff's deputies zapped him.
Okay.
That's probably a ripoff, sword. That they
It's
sell. It's a
wall
cheap piece of
hanger
shit.
from a.
Right.
Yeah, dude probably bought it at a pawn shop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that. Yeah.
It's a wall hanger, and he's a mall ninja. It seems unlikely, but it did indeed happen. A man wearing full ninja garb attacked members of a U.S. Army Special Operations Unit in the middle of the night in the California desert, setting off a scramble for safety and resulting in at least 2 injuries, according to police and other records.
Damn.
The incident occurred a little after 1 a.m. on September 18th, when authorities in Crest Ridge, California, got word. Ridgecrest, sorry.
I'm telling you, man, Johnny's really rubbing off on you.
There's just some things that every now and then I completely lose my ability to do. And then the next day I'm back and I'm fine.
Okay, back to the article.
Got word of a sword-wielding man dressed as a ninja on the loose at the
Kern? That's what I'm going to go with.
Airport in Kern County, north of Los Angeles. Kern County Sheriff's deputy found the suspect had assaulted a victim at the scene with a sword and thrown a rock through a hangar window, hitting an additional victim in the head. Okay. The sheriff's office said on Friday. The attack came without any warning. The victims are members of the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, SOAR, according to the Stars and Stripes newspaper, which states that military personnel were at the airport as part of training exercises. The incident report quickly drew attention after it was posted on Instagram that describes how a staff sergeant was smoking a light night cigarette near an airport hangar when an unknown person wearing full ninja garb approached him with a question. "Do you know who I am?" the man asked. The sergeant said he did not. "Do you know where my family is?" the man asked. The sergeant said he did not. The person in ninja garb began to slash at him with a katana sword. The report
Do
states,
you know where my family is?
If the dude walking around at 1 a.m. in a full ninja getup didn't tell you he was off his nut, this paragraph should pretty well paint the picture for
but
you.
I think the name of the airport may explain it all. Kern comes from Kern County. Inyo is the county next to Kern, and Inyo Kern is just the concatenation, of Inyo County and Kern County. So they call the airport, and that's actually the city there, Inyo Kern. But Inyo is a Native American term. I think it might actually be the California Indians too, that tribe. That means dwelling place of the Great Spirit. That's what Inyo means. And so maybe the Great Spirit was dwelling in this guy.
So the Holy Ghost jumped in this man and just made him feel like a ninja?
Essentially, yeah, the holy ninja spirit got into him, and he just said, "I've got to do this."
I thought they said he was on meth, not that he was.
No, the Skep said.
No, that was my speculation. That's my speculation.
Well, no, but now I'm picturing this guy trying to sniff like paint thinner from a paper bag, and I'm like, that does different things.
Let's face it, meth is probably pretty high class for LA these days. He's probably just straight bath salts or something.
Yeah, straight a paint huffer.
I'm familiar with the idea that the ancestor of Native Americans was most likely someone that was related to the Joman group, or Joman ethnic group within Japan. But I think that's taking it a bit too far, that the Great Spirit was actually a ninja's spirit.
You never know. Never know with great spirits.
They did cross over the iceberg.
But yeah,
for an idea from South Park, by the way.
For the foreigners in chat, I don't see Assassin of the Gray here anymore, so I'll go ahead and say the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment is called the Night Stalkers. These are the helicopter pilots that you see in like Black Hawk Down, Zero Dark 30. They take all of the special operations guys, be it Rangers, Green Berets, Delta Force, Navy SEALs, to missions. So these guys aren't just like your average run of the mill, even helicopter pilot. They go through extensive training both in the helicopters and physically. Yeah. And this guy just showed up when they were on a training exercise and just started hacking at people.
And to continue, at him with a katana sword, the report states, adding that the sergeant's leg and phone were struck. The sergeant ran, jumped a fence, and reached a building where he joined others from his company. As he and the captain locked the door and called 911, the assailant kicked and punched doors and windows, according to the report, which has redacted the service members' names. The Ridge Crest, I had to double check, so that was what the pause, making sure that I didn't say Crest Ridge again.
Go ahead.
The Ridgecrest Police Department's blotter entry of that night says a report came in at 1:19 a.m. of a suspect in a ninja outfit, complete with a sword, at Inquisitor Airport. The report cited at least one victim. More than 20 minutes after the initial contact, the blotter says a 911 call came in from someone at the airport saying 26 special operations military members were hunkered down in a bunker, wondering where help is. The ninja did not obey deputies' orders. Police officers located the ninja suspect. I still find it funny that they're referring to him as the ninja. On a nearby road, but the man refused to follow commands and brandished the sword at deputies. The sheriff's office said, projectile rounds were used, but were ineffective, it added. Instead, the man ran. When deputies used a taser on him, he dropped the sword and deputies were able to take him into custody. He was identified as...
Hold on. He managed to take projectile rounds?
See, that's what got me, because I was scrolling through Twitter and somebody pointed that out. Like, can we talk about how projectile rounds were ineffective?
Yeah,
I mean, that's why I decided to read the story.
Shotgun slug.
He's like running down down the road, and they're chasing him down. They're like, "Hey, stand down! Throw your sword down!" He's like, "Fuck you!"
And that's also
shooting him with beanbag bullets, and he's taking them. And then all of a sudden,
they should be shooting him with 45s in the face.
Well,
that usually will bring a guy down. Seriously, if you hit a guy several times in the brain with a 45, that is very effective in calming them.
I just got it in my head like he did like some Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Matrix kind of like acrobatics and like
was he? Yeah, he was picking
flinging the sword
the
like a lightsaber, just cutting the bullets in half.
Sure.
Well, I do have to ask.
But all it took was a taser.
Does anyone else get the feeling of full semi-automatic when they hear the phrase projectile rounds?
I mean, that's what I go to,
Yeah, I think like
it's a way of saying
beanbag bullets or the
Adam's right. That's exactly what it is. It's beanbag bullets as opposed to 7 grains of lead.
Yeah, I would still phrase that as like non-lethal projectiles.
Yeah.
Or rather, not non-lethal, but less than lethal projectials.
Well, I guess when they say projectile
rounds.
I guess when they also say projectile, they could mean like some kind of mace or something.
Well, I only say that.
No, that would be projectile.
That'd be an aerosol.
They're talking about beanbag rounds almost.
He's only brandishing a sword, so it's not like he's gonna shoot somebody. So they can just pelt him with a bunch of fucking.
I really want to share this article with Reaper. I'm gonna.
Holy shit, Jen, you're still here.
Of course, I'm still here.
I wish they dropped the guy, and because this kind of thing, all kidding aside, needs to be discouraged. You need to know that if you come on a military base and you start assaulting military personnel who are in the midst of training, you're going to get killed. That's a death sentence. You're done. You are DONE done. And here, they hunkered down and cowered behind.
No, they
shot him.
de-escalated. They de-escalated is what they tried to do.
Well, hold on.
Also,
in all fairness, I would say, I want to know. I would rather pelt him with the bullets to take him in, because I want to know.
I mean,
why he decided to dress up like a ninja and assault the base as a ninja. That's more of the questioning as assault.
Well, that's why I think they de-escalated, because clearly, like the minute he came on base dressed like that, it's like clearly this guy's a psycho. These guys are trained to kill people, right? Like that's what they do.
There's a better reason why they de-escalated, and this is something that we sadly know from the number of shootings that have happened on military bases. The only people that are allowed to be armed
are the police.
The gate guards, and the MPs, which are the police on base.
Well, also, I didn't think by reading this article that this was a military installation. I thought that they were at a civilian airport, that they were just conducting a training exercise.
No, I think you're right. No. Actually, I think you're right. Inyo Kern is actually that is a civilian airport.
And also, and also these guys are helicopter pilots. Whereas, I mean, they may have some small arms weapons training, but most of their weapons are attached to the helicopter.
Right. Exactly right. That's why I want the guy killed, is because if he comes on base and he starts slashing, a bunch of recruits who are learning how to, pack their rucksacks, that's not going to be funny anymore. That's not an amusing little thing.
My guess is, if I'm not mistaken, the article also states, I think maybe a little further down, or maybe I was reading something else earlier. These were like Chinook pilots and Blackhawk pilots. Yep. So like these are the guys who they probably had multiple tours, 10, 12 plus maybe to Afghanistan. Because that's where they use a lot with those high altitudes in Afghanistan, was the Chinooks. Mm-hmm. And they're probably just like, fuck this. We're just here to fly some helos, man. We're not dealing with crazy people.
And also, I'm going to ask a question.
Yeah, I'm not blaming them. I'm blaming the police who came up and should have taken care of this burn.
Well, yeah, even special operations guys are waiting over 20 minutes for the cops. So I mean, buy a toaster, folks.
I'm going to ask a question that I'm almost positive I know the answer for everyone here. Have any of you ever had to do unarmed defense against a blade?
No, thankfully.
Armed or unarmed?
Unarmed defense against a blade.
No,
somebody's getting cut. I know that. So
yes, but it wasn't like oh man, I was training for it, but yeah.
I mean, what are they supposed to do? Like use some weird soldier moves on him to take him out?
Here's the thing.
That wouldn't go over well.
When it comes to unarmed defense against a blade,
you get cut.
Yeah, the thing that a lot of people will talk shit when it comes to unarmed defense about blades, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, all you have to do is this," and suddenly they don't have a weapon, and you're perfectly fine. No, that's complete horseshit. If anyone starts saying that in a self-defense course, just know immediately whatever they follow with is bullshit.
Leave. Sanguine is right.
That's some dojo shit.
If somebody really knows anything about knife fighting, and they attack you with blade, you're going to get hurt. You're probably going to get badly hurt.
Yep. If you're at a self-defense class and the question of unarmed defense against a blade comes up, the answer that you're given should be, you're going to get cut. There is no way that you will not you're going to get cut. What you do in unarmed defense against a blade is you try to control where and how badly. Sometimes this is called the sacrifice. And I was a corrections officer. I've done a lot of different things in my life. I have a scar that is a sacrifice scar in the inside of my left hand.
What did you get nailed with?
It was a knife.
So it was a legit knife, not just a sharpened toothbrush?
This was not while I was at the facility that this happened. This was a legit
Oh, okay.
knife outside of facility when it happened. And
Right.
yeah, it was a knife that I grabbed the blade, wrenched it out, and just pounded the shit out of the person.
It's a correct response.
The other thing too is the fact that they don't know if this guy is just crazy or is on meds or he's done something. It's one of those things where like they don't have that confirmation, but they know that there's something wrong with this guy. They're not trained to deal with that. But at the same time, he's got a knife and he's going crazy. Like, he's taking a bunch of rounds. Like, I mean, I know that comes after the story, but up to this point, they don't know any of this shit. But unknown is enough for you to hesitate and be like, okay, I'm not going to make a lot of movements until I know what's actually going on. Because, like I said, these guys are trained to kill people, right?
Yeah.
Well, the helicopter pilots are trained to fly helicopters. They're not really trained to kill people, except as Hate Camel pointed out, with the weapons that are fastened to the helicopter.
If they are
not
engaging in hand-to-hand combat, something has gone really wrong for
them.
them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, though, if you're ever in a self-defense, they say that you're going to be able to get away. No, walk out. It's bullshit. If they tell you you're going to get cut, choose where. That's someone actually teaching you how to defend yourself. And the using your hand like I did, that's one of the worst methods. You really want to use the outside of your arm. So they should mention that to you as well in that situation. For me, my hand was the first thing that I could get close enough to stop it before I got stabbed. So hand it was.
I think it's almost instinctive too. Like, it's hard to really remember to do that because you just think you're going to grab it.
Oh, no, I knew that I was going to get cut. I knew that I would have some mark. I was lucky because the cut that I got is one scar on the inside of one of my fingers because it was the first one to make contact with the edge. And it's just right in the crook of a joint where I have that scar. And it's just sliding off to one side.
But yeah, when I saw this article, I was just struck by the irony that some of the world's greatest helicopter pilots, who are dubbed the Night Stalkers, got attacked in the middle of the night while on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
By something that weird too. Like, that's a story to really write back to your buddies about. Like, check this shit out. Who knows where they've been too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the only two like really interesting stories I saw. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on Twitter today, so
yeah. The last bit of the article is just the name of the person, their age,
which it was pointed out earlier. Is like Gino Rivera does not sound like a very ninja name.
Yeah, it's definitely a case of mole ninja armed with a wall hanger. And for those who aren't familiar with those terms, a mall ninja is from... You all remember that knife store at the mall? Doesn't matter what mall you were going to. You all remember that one knife store at the mall, right?
Like the mall, I didn't really go to the mall much. Like, if I go into Tulsa, like, they had like a kiosk more than a store.
Okay. Yeah, the knife kiosk.
What's a knife store?
A store where you go to buy knives.
Yeah, it's a place where most of the time, the way that it's set up is on one side of the store, on one side of the kiosk, is all the actually useful knives. So that will be like your multi-tools, your Swiss Army knives, shit like that. Things that you'll use in your day-to-day. Then on the other side, it will be, look at this rainbowed steel karambit and this katana that's folded this number of times, and look at this, and here's this one knife that has 4 blades, because what's better than 1 blade? Clearly multiple blades, and 4 blades is even better than 3, motherfucker. That's the type of knife store that I'm talking about.
All right. You found this in a mall?
Yeah. Pretty much every mall that I've spent any amount of time in, there is always at least one knife store that would have like the common sense shit that you actually use, and then it would have just the tactical and fantasy knives and larger bladed instruments.
I don't know, man. You know, the mall that I had by me was pretty much just like a lot of like fashion shops and jewelry stores and restaurants and stuff, and then there was a mall that was around us that had the samurai swords, you know, like, yeah, you can get your fantasy swords and stuff, but nothing like that, like where they had like knives and shit.
Oh, you didn't just have the standard knife store? Man, I thought that was damn near everywhere had at least one of those.
Yeah, we had them. Not every mall has them, though. It is true that not every mall has them, because like if you live in a big city with a downtown core, like not every downtown core is gonna that's not gonna happen. But if you go to like individual malls, they all have them. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said,
well, yeah, you know, honestly, I think it is the location. I don't think the people around, because again, the if you wanted to get the stores with the samurai swords, you had to go way out of the city limits.
Well, a lot of those knife stores also carry like collector's items. Like they're still like a lot of them are still useless, but some of them. My dad used to go there to compare knives because he actually liked to make his own. But sometimes he'd like to look for a certain type of hunting knives, because some do actually.
Your dad made his own knives?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's an engineer. Like, oh yeah.
Wow.
He's retired now, but yeah, he would make his own knives. He made his own bows. He made his own arrows. He actually made an old 1800 style gun because he wanted to use it to hunt buffalo. Like we have some field buffalo up here. Like you're not really supposed to hunt them all the time, but like sometimes you have a season for them. You know, so he got a tag. So he was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it like my great grandfather used to do it. So he made his gun and he made his bullets, and he got a buffalo.
That's fucking awesome.
Can you hunt people from Quebec? Is there a tag for Quebecois?
No. And honestly,
You're ahead of the time, man.
Honestly, they've already punished themselves for their decision. I know what they did. Like I do know some people from Quebec, and he did say that they were probably going to go with the block because it's the only way that they really understand how to say fuck you to both parties. That's what they did.
They certainly do that well.
They do. It's not in their best interest. And here's the thing. The guy that they voted in is not in their best interest. Everything that they're complaining about, he is going to enforce more of.
No.
And he wants to bring in policies that aren't really good for them. Like he really wanted to amp up more of this language stuff of theirs. Like if you want to run a business in Quebec, you better make sure you've got Quebec French down. You know, and that's going to cause a lot of problems because not everybody in Quebec even speaks English.
You know, I'll tell you, I've been to Quebec, and I actually grew up speaking French. French it's tied with English for my first language. I grew up in Belgium.
Yeah.
And so I went there. I thought, I'm not going to have a problem here. I speak, good enough French and, excellent get by French. And I went in there and they hurt themselves frowning at me and my French, pathetic French. They speak a completely different brand of French. That really surprised me.
It's very old. It is a very old.
It's Acadian, right?
It's spoken through the tongue and the cheeks. So when you go to pronounce French, if you try to pronounce it through the tongue and the cheek, it's actually quite easy to speak Quebec. I don't speak it.
It's
because
it's the idioms that that threw me. They would say stuff to me, and I would just go, "What?" You know, I know that verb, I know that noun, and that doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yep.
Literally, the only thing I can say in French is like, I can order a coffee. That's it.
I'm not. I'm not very good at it either. It's one of those things where, like, I started off with a decent French teacher, and then I ended up with somebody who handed me a book, and I've never gone back since. Our system out here is different.
The lady at the hotel thanked me, and she said, "Monsieur, monsieur," and I said, "Je vous en prie," which is the nice, the formal way. And she was like laughing at me, and so I asked her. I said, what would be the what's the normal thing to say up here? And she says, up here we say "Rianditude."
Okay.
Nothing at all. And I was like, okay, that's like super informal, like everybody's buddies. All right. Whereas "Je vous en prie," using "vous" instead of you can say "t'en prie" if it's a friend of yours or it's somebody much younger than you. Anyway, I was just struck by the I wasn't ready for the idioms, a lot of usage differences from what I was used to.
I don't have the hate boner that a lot of people have for Quebec. I understand that the problem with them is they really don't understand if they worked with the rest of us, they'd actually get more. And they have a mistrust.
They don't seem to think that though, do they?
No. They have a mistrust. They have a real mistrust for the rest of us.
Yeah.
And I blame Ontario a lot for that because they
Hold on, is there really a big hate boner from Quebec? Like,
yes.
Are Quebecans like really that?
Yeah,
they hate the rest of Canada, Adam.
Yeah.
They really truly do.
They hate us because of our connections to England, but they hate Ontario more because of their politics with Ontario. The thing is that the West would be more than happy to work with them if they would actually work with us. The thing is they have a my way or the highway kind of attitude when it comes to us, and that's always going to be a problem because
like French attitude.
Yes, it's always the problem. It's one of those things where like you have to make some concessions for us to be able to work for it to actually work, and the hate boner from us really has to do with how much money we really give them, and it's really kind of hit home for us because we've been really struggling.
Oh shit! Hold on.
So how far are you guys?
Check your logic is speaking French in the chat.
Yeah, and I just have to say because
the
connection to England is what he's trying to write there.
Yep. The thing that I have to say, because all of you guys gave how well you do with French, the closest that I get to French when I attempt it is I can make French people feel suicidal, and I can make it sound like one of the more Germanic languages of Europe.
Now the
Those
one thing
are my French accomplishments.
I've been to France. I was in France. It was nice. I did go to a stop though.
Did you try the toast?
Yeah, I did. I did have some nice toast. But you know what? I went to this gas stop.
It's French toast.
Where they had a toilet that was in the floor. And I was like, I'm in France, and there's a toilet in the floor. What the fuck?
Do you mean a full-blown squat pot, or did someone just steal the toilet?
Yeah,
no, it was a hole in the ground. It was a legit hole in the ground. They have squatty potties. They have effectively squatty potties in France, just so that you know.
Where is this? Where was this? Because I've spent a lot of time in France. Where did you encounter this?
So we were traveling between Italy and we'd gone through Switzerland, and we'd gone through.
So
France.
you're in the southeast part. So you were on the Italian border with France. Is that where you encountered this?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
These squat pots.
So my mom, I don't have these pictures. My mom has these. Like I'd have to upload them to show them to
No,
you.
I believe you. I'm just curious. I wondered because you associate that with the Middle East.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
also
what threw
China.
me. That's what threw me because I was like, I'm in France, but apparently it is a thing. They're not very common anymore, but they do have them. It's just that some people don't want to pay the extra money for the toilet paper. I'm like, well, okay, just keep napkins.
Wait. Are they squatting on pots and then scooping it with the pots?
No. So you're basically going to a place where there's going to be a hole in the ground, and then there's like a metal, kind of like a grill over it.
There's a grill? What?
Yeah, a grill over it. You just squat and you.
I just squatting on
Adam,
a grill.
What you do is you squat so low that your
And then
asshole's the
there's
lowest part of
three
your ass.
They call it a squat loo.
Yeah.
just so you know, and they call them what is it? Toilette à la Turque. That's what it is.
It's supposed to be more natural.
Makes sense.
It is supposed to be more natural because like that's
Yeah.
technically our original squatting pose for when we
Yes.
originally pooped, and that's still how you do it when you go out camping. I mean, that's just how it.
Most natural.
It's the most natural.
It's interesting. Listen to this. Hole in the floor toilets are called
In France.
toilette à la Turque. Listen, guys. However,
la
there seems
Turque.
to be a universal
Oh, shit.
disinclination to accept responsibility for them. The Turks, who do have a lot of them, according to Le Guide du Routard, though they are increasingly installing sit-on ones, call them Greek toilets. The Greeks call them Bulgarian, and the Japanese call them Chinese toilets. They are common in rural bars in France
Greeks
and are
call them
still produced and installed, notably in motorway service stations. And there is a Facebook group that exists to oppose this. So I just thought you guys would be interested to know that
There's a whole group against it?
These are fairly common, and a lot of people hate it, but they are still sold. They're in public spaces as well, and claims sometimes put forward include that a squatting position is healthier and more natural, and that it is hygienic not to sit on a public toilet seat. So there you go.
Well, and not only that, but it also, enhances your muscle mass.
I did
because
not
you're
know.
squatting.
I did not know that these existed in France. But there you go. They're called toilette à la Turque. That literally would mean Turkish toilets.
Yeah.
Turkey
Yeah.
toilet.
Or actually, it means toilets the way they do in Turkey. That's actually what that means.
Ah,
yeah.
okay.
God, that was such a long time ago, but I still remember it. Like I didn't use it. My mom just wanted to take a picture of it because she just couldn't believe
Goodness.
it was there.
Wait, you took a shit on a Turkish toilet?
No, I took a picture of a toilet. That was a Turkish toilet.
See, yeah, I find it amusing that there's a group that is actively campaigning against them. That's the part that was the most amusing to me.
And they have a Facebook group, which
Yeah.
I have to find that Facebook group. I'm going to find it.
I could
now.
just imagine, like, they have videos and they're standing in front of a flag and they have a mask on. They're like, you know what? We are against the Turkish toilet, and we do not believe that you should be squatting. You should just be walking and having your butt cheeks, cutting them turd loaves.
It's the M2C group, the Against the Stench Squat Toilet. They call it the Stench Toilet.
Life is amazing.
I can
isn't
kind of
it?
understand why.
Here we
Having
go.
had to use squat pots before, I can understand why someone would refer to them as the stench toilet.
Oh, it's actually put together by a bunch of plumbers. Plumbers.
Taking
and
it-
wives.
Nice.
Taking a shit at a hospital bed.
I love it, and they advertise a bunch of different kinds of toilets and toilet rings and all that sort of thing. Interesting.
Very nice.
All right, you gotta love it.
Yeah, so-
commerce.
Other than Jen, Have any of you guys ended up encountering one of those toilets in the wild?
No.
what
The
toilet?
closest I've ever gotten is a porta-john, and that was like out of sheer desperation.
Yes, in Bangkok and Thailand.
What kind
I figured you
what kind of
probably
toilet?
By Bangkok and Cambodia. I'm sorry, in Thailand and Cambodia. I've seen them in both.
Talking about squat pots, Adam.
Yeah, what is a squat pot?
It's a hole in the ground that you poop in.
Yeah, it's a hole that you squat over, and you shit down the hole.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Very, very common in Thailand, actually.
I've gone camping.
You know, it's amazing. It's amazing how we've evolved. Like I've been watching a lot of old documentaries on old castles and stuff, and they do that a lot. They discuss things like how often they actually had those butt rests and whether or not every castle actually had those. And
Butt rests.
yeah, because that's what those were. That's what they were called. That was your toilet. It was that little overarch, and a lot of the reasons why a lot of European buildings kind of look awkward, like they have that small bottom and then the bigger top. Yeah, that's because that's where the hole was.
You're
yeah, it was called a
lying.
butt rest.
No, get out.
Yeah, depending on the style of castle, some of them had it where you would literally shit out the side of the castle. Some had it where it would drop down into effectively a specialized area that would then be cleaned out by very unhappy peasants.
I
Yes,
would
we call those
utilize it.
cesspools.
I would utilize it as a deterrent, as you know, when siege happens on a castle, and then they would.
That was
pour,
part of the
molten
thing about it. Yeah,
oil. Yeah, I would sit there and, you know what? Also,
there were
we're gonna
castles
pull
that
some shit, and you're gonna deal with that.
there were castles that would drain their cesspool by launching it over the wall when there were attackers. Because
poop
disease.
will burn.
Waste
if you
not,
dry
want
it.
not.
Yep.
If you dry it, it will burn. There's
Yep.
a lot of carbon in it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, don't they burn cow pies?
Oh
Isn't
yeah,
cow
absolutely.
pies like
they do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I ended up encountering squat pots when I was in China, predominantly. I think I also saw one in Japan, but it was mainly China that I ended up encountering them.
I've only
including
ever been in Hong Kong, and I did not encounter one there.
Oh, I encountered them in China, including one on a train where when you look down, the squat pot,
You see the
you're
tracks
just
going
seeing
by.
the rails go by.
I
So
love
you were
it.
shitting straight onto the railroad ties?
Chinese are such a practical people.
Yes. What? Okay, so what was the next question that we had?
I was just curious if anyone had ever encountered one other than myself and Jen. But yeah,
Well, I mean, I could come up with a
Jen-
question to change
Jen,
the subject
hold
if you
on,
want,
know
Adam.
what? No, I just gotta say, Jen, that just opens a whole new perspective in the fact that you have this type of like poo-in maneuver.
No, I'm sorry.
So, you know.
It's just when you go to France and you have this really nice adventure, but then you go to a gas stop and there's a toilet in the hole in the ground.
Yeah, it's pretty. That is. Pretty
You expect it to smell bad, but that's just due to a lack of bathing, not just shitting in a hole in the
that
floor.
joke is like common, but
so I've said it before. Do you guys know the origin of the French people's smell?
oh, yes, yes.
It's
I-
onions.
Yeah, it
I
comes
feel
from
like
their
we've been through this
armpits.
before, but
It's
Their
fucking
armpits smells like-
onions, bro.
I don't remember.
So the reason why there's a stereotype that the French smell is due to World War II. So during World War II,
I can't wait to hear this.
there was of course, France was occupied by Germany for much of the war. And as the war wore on, it ended up being that the French were put under rather severe restrictions and rationing. More severe than Germany proper until later in the war. But one of the things that they had as a restriction was the amount of glycerin was cut, because there's a lot of military uses for glycerin.
Ammunition.
Oh, damn,
Yes.
dude.
It makes a nice boom.
Who made that song in the 90s? Listen.
So-
Bush.
you have the glycerin rationing, which meant that there was a glycerin shortage throughout all of France. And one of the other major uses of glycerin is in the soap making, the saponification process.
Yeah, I'm gonna find the song. Okay, you don't have to keep.
It's from the band Bush.
Yeah, I know. I got it. You don't have to keep fucking saying the song.
So as the war on more and more, and we had Normandy, and we landed in France, and we started pushing through France, we kept on coming across these French people, especially the people in major cities and those that were really far outside in rural portions. It was more the kind of mid-range that had the least issue with this. But like the suburb area had the least issue. Urban and rural, massive issue. They hadn't been able to get soap supplies for a long period of time, which meant that they hadn't been able to properly bathe, which caused them to have a rather particular odor when the Allied forces landed in France. This is one of the major reasons why there's the stereotype of the French smell bad. This answers pretty much everything about that stereotype except for one thing, and that's why haven't the French started bathing since?
Yeah, why does it continue today?
I was gonna say, it's like, are you telling me that during a soap shortage, the French had not heard of a horse bath yet? Really?
I think they're just more prudish than they like to admit, and they just thought it was cheaper to go with perfume, because you can get cheap perfume, and they do that a lot. Like they try to mask it.
No, these guys have a whole fucking war chant about they have the best onions.
Yep.
Like.
Oh yeah, but their cheese, their cheese smells good when it smells like God's feet. You got to remember that, Adam.
These are smelly people. Yeah. But I love them.
Yes.
They like this stinker cheese.
Holy shit.
I'll stick with my craft singles. Thank you very much.
Government cheese.
Charlie the Mage.
Good God.
Oh, really? Craft singles is where? Oh, okay.
Like
I said, it's not that it's the worst. It's just it's like plastic. Yeah.
Craft singles do have a use, and that is they can make other cheeses melt beautifully.
Oh shit!
If you're wanting to make one of the best grilled cheeses,
Sanguine.
Yep.
You need to make one of those crazy looking 1950s or 60s like where it's like gelatin and hot dogs. Like one of those like you're
thinking of Polly, not Sanguine, Adam.
What?
Like hot dogs and Jello or whatever.
Is
it meat?
I don't know what Polly does. I'm not a Polly follower.
It's one of his games for AAA.
He's a mono follower.
Yeah.
I if I look to cooking.
Oh no, is it Jello? That's what it's called.
I look to an actual chef. So I go to Sanguine. Does Polly do cooking stuff?
No, he does like nightmare food.
Oh.
What do you mean? What do you mean nightmare food?
Yeah,
like he had that one game. Is it Jello? Where like he goes through like old like 60s and 70s cookbooks or whatever, and you got to guess based off the description if it's a Jello or if it's some other kind of monstrosity.
Does he actually make it?
That video then. So once upon a time, I found this video online of this beef Wellington that this guy made in response to Gordon Ramsay. He used 100% 7-Eleven products.
You told me about this.
I did.
He used what?
100% 7-Eleven products, sir. Yeah, it was all.
He made beef Wellington.
Mm-hmm.
What did he use for beef?
So he used hot dogs because they have 100% hot dogs, and he pureed, he pureed them, and then he used some of the condiments from the hot dog stand to make the spread on the inside, and then he used a cheese pizza crust. He took off the cheese from it and used the crust to make the crust for his beef Wellington, and it just ended up looking like a giant hot dog in a crust. wasn't the worst thing in the world, but I sent it.
But it wasn't beef Wellington.
No. But I also sent it to Irate Alex because I was like, I wonder how he'll feel about this.
It's an abomination.
What did Alex say about it?
He hasn't talked to me about it since. He's part of the conversation.
Hold on. You know what? I look at it like I immediately had the theme song for the American Gladiator. Dun, 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 dun. And I'm sitting there thinking, you know what? How would Sanguine do it? And then I'm seeing Sanguine sit there like, you know what? I'm going to do it like this. Bam! And he fucking sits there and makes that beef Wellington. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like if Polly ever wants to show you different foodstuffs,
why do you keep bringing up Polly? I'm talking about Sanguine.
Yeah, because it's like the polar opposite of Sanguine. Sanguine sounds like the food Sanguine describes sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Sanguine makes some good food.
Everything Polly's going to show you is going to be like somebody made it on a dare.
Yeah, what I describe sounds like something that I would send to Monkey, and he'd be like, "Oh, this sounds like gourmet food."
I don't know if I trust a Polly. Food.
The thing
is he a cook? Does he make food? Does he?
No,
He makes fun of food more than making food. He enjoys things about food and enjoys it as a subject. I've never heard him be like a gourmet like Sanguine is or some of the other minions.
Yeah, the thing about the jelloed foods or the jellied foods from the 60s and 70s. It was 60s and 70s,
processed
right?
cheese.
Or was that 50s and 60s where that became a big thing?
I'm sorry, what did you say, Sanguine?
The making a lot of jelloed and jellied foods. Was that?
That was a late 50s, early 60s.
Okay, so 50s and 60s. Yeah, that was much the same as when you look at a lot of medieval recipes, they'll be really heavily spiced.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was a way of showing off, see, I'm doing the new thing. I have something to show off my fancy. And the commonly available gelatins became the new it thing during that period. So you ended up with
pectin is a thing.
Yeah, like the mousses and the jellos and all that stuff, the forms.
Right. Like, and the one where it's a salad that is entirely encased in jello.
The amount of things that actually worked for it too is actually kind of amazing. Like I watch a lady who does a lot of old English puddings. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing the amount of stuff that actually worked. Like they did a bread like cake in one of those like bread pans, and all that stuff worked.
One of the things that I was subjected to as a child, this will make you laugh, was an unusual flavor of Jello. Okay. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Tomato Jello with pecans.
Okay. Yeah.
Tomato.
I could see that like a Caesar.
I'm just dead serious. And you're a little kid, right? And my mom was kind of an eccentric cook. I'll put it that way. We would have like our sandwiches would be Wonder Bread, cream cheese, and grape jelly. That was a typical sandwich for me at lunch. And then at supper we'd have like tomato Jello, or she'd make borscht. She'd make beet soup, and the beet soup went with, wait for it, tuna fish casserole.
No.
Those were the days when I'd get home from school and I would smell the tuna fish casserole, and I would think to myself, we're going to have the bad tasting soup with the tuna fish casserole. Fuck my life. I just want to die.
Yeah, I'm sorry for
I
you.
can't decide.
And I was 10 years old.
I don't think I'd be able to forgive my mother if she did that to me.
I can't decide whether
you still taste it though.
I'm sorry, what, Adam?
Can you still taste it?
Yes, I still
that taste.
I can't decide whether if I had been raised in that manner, I would have never become heavy, or if I would have just the moment I learned how to cook, become morbidly obese.
You know, that was an odd thing when it wasn't. This is the truth. It wasn't until I went away to college that I found out that I liked beans. I thought I hated beans because the beans that I had were cooked to death. You know, in the traditional Southern style of, you know, cook the vegetable until it surrenders. That's, you know, and you could have crisp vegetables that were, you know, lightly braised. And to this day, I don't like deeply cooked vegetables because my mom, and I love my mom, she's gone now, but I loved her very much. But she would just cook vegetables till they ran up the white flag. Yeah,
it's like steamed vegetables. Like there's some people who know how to do it right, and then there's other people who absolutely do the same thing. It's just
right.
This is just reminding me of one of the worst meals that I've ever had, which a restaurant in Nolens tried to pull a wartime cheat on me. So during the Second World War, there was a lot of rationing. There was also not as good or as long-lasting supply of meat due to that. So people came up with a bunch of ways to try to mask that meat had gone. One of the ways that they did it was they would heavily overspice and over garlic meat in order to try to hide that past due flavor. And I was in Nolens, and I was in Nolens, and I was served up a steak that it was completely just fucked by the amount of spice that they had put on it.
Oof. Yeah.
And
could you taste the spoiled meat?
I could.
Was it really spoiled?
Yes, it was spoiled. It was
I hope there's
absolutely
no
spoiled,
Clostridium in it.
which made me. I took a single bite and I lost my appetite for the entire night.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Oh, I gag thinking about that.
Yep. And the moment
That's awful saying that.
had a bite, I realized that they had done the ridiculous overspicing.
Yeah.
On purpose, not just, oh, this is how their steaks are done. No, it was they realized that this steak was fucked and they tried to get one over on me by over seasoning it, hoping that
if that couldn't potentially kill you or something, you know? Like,
yep. It was
it's
the worst meal that I've ever had.
Yeah.
And like I said, I had a single bite and I don't even think I swallowed it. And then I got several shots of whiskey.
Did you explain to them that the meat was bad, and what did they do about it?
Oh yeah,
what was their reaction?
I raised some hell. They went, well, we served you the food, and I was going, yeah, it's fucking spoiled, and they did not want to concede that they had known that it was spoiled.
Did they concede that though it was obviously spoiled?
They were trying to not concede that while also trying to make it sound like they were. Is the best way that I can express what they were doing.
Yeah, trying to.
Because they were pulling a lot of the, we're very sorry that you did not enjoy your meal. Is there anything else that we could give you? It'll be on the house. Type bullshit, rather than...
Bring me a fresh steak. Bring me a steak that is cooked right. Bring me a fresh piece of meat. You know, something that isn't spoiled. That'd be great.
Yeah, like I said, when I had that first bite and I realized what had just been done, yeah, there was no chance that I was going to eat anything from them.
I wouldn't even bother, because you know what? They would probably serve you a fresh piece of meat that they cooked on the pan that they just used the shit one on.
Yep, and also, like I said, it would just put me off of food for that entire night.
Like,
and I was in Nolens. Fantastic food.
Did you get
around.
sick? Did you get sick?
I did not, because like I said, immediately after leaving there, I got several shots of whiskey down my throat to try to counteract whatever did end up getting in
Well,
through my saliva.
Yeah, if you had cytotoxins, the alcohol would just help it get absorbed faster.
True.
Huh.
But yeah, I thankfully did not get sick, and it's either an effect of the whiskey that I downed shortly thereafter, or just luck or tolerance, because I tend to be fairly hale and hearty.
Was this in like the French Quarter? Was this like a tourist restaurant?
This was a
Popular
bit
restaurant.
off of Bourbon. It wasn't right on Bourbon. It was like,
But it was
one
in
or
the
two
French
streets.
Quarter. It was in the French Quarter. It was
it was
just
down in
off
that
Bourbon
area.
Street. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was like a street or two off of Bourbon.
Yeah, I know the area. Yeah, did some kind of long-term consulting for Hibernian National Bank down there.
Yeah,
See, I was
halfway in between Bourbon and the Café Du Monde.
Oh, I know where that is. I know where Café Du Monde is.
Yeah, I was going to complain about what my dad made, but at least what he made wouldn't have poisoned me. It was gross, but it wouldn't have poisoned me.
Mm-hmm.
He had this year where he really was determined to get rid of his gut.
Mm-hmm.
Like he hit the man years, and his gut came in, and so in his endeavors to make food to take with him when he went on his hunting expeditions, he decided to take beans that he'd bought at what I like to call the hippie store,
Mm-hmm.
and then he cooked them, and then they cooked them, and then he cooked them until they were basically flavorless mush. And then he proceeded to mix pickled beets into them.
Okay.
I think he added corn to it too, because it was very lumpy. And then he put it into Ziploc bags and proceeded to freeze them.
Fantastic.
What?
And my mom came home and she was like, "Why is Grimace in the fridge?"
Nice. Yeah. I've told you guys what caused me to start learning how to cook, right?
Yeah, and I gotta say, I think your dad and I will get along just fine.
Yeah, it was Domino's Pizza.
I mean, I
meal
might ask him every
for
now and then, like, hey,
months
man,
straight.
can we switch it up? Maybe get like a Papa John's this time instead. But other than that, I'd be cool.
Every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was a fresh pizza for dinner. It was cold or thrown in the oven for breakfast and lunch. That was the meal for a month straight.
I mean, you just literally described my lunch, dinner, and breakfast this morning.
I can't even look at Domino's Pizza most of the time now.
Oh no, I went to a local joint, but yeah, did the running errands and stuff for Nana Camel yesterday, and she's like, you know what, I want Italian. I was like, well, you say Italian, first thing I think of is pizza. She goes, oh, I haven't had pizza in a while. I'm like, all right.
And Cannibalistic Wizard, that was Sanguine, not Skep, that said that it was Domino's Pizza for a month.
Now I'm grateful for the fact that my first long-term job was at a deli, because I always knew when to buy things, because I was part of the process that made them. So
It's just that.
Well, share some of that information with us.
Oh, I always did. I was always like, hey, go for this one. I just made this one. I still remember some of the salads too, but a lot of them are really, really easy. Like, I mean,
is there a certain time of day or certain time of should you buy things certain things early in the day or later in the day, or are there any rules about that?
It really depends on where you are in the location and what the rules are. Like, I've worked at different places. So when I worked at Safeway, it was a little bit more laxed. And the rules were a little bit different because, like, at the time, it just was. So chickens could be out for a little bit longer. So, I mean, you would still go through chickens, but you didn't have as... you wouldn't pull them as soon as I did at Sobeys. So, like, Sobeys had a 4-hour period. So after 4 hours, we pulled them, and those birds got used for other things. Like we would pull them apart and then cool them and use the chicken for other salads or sandwiches, or just other things you could use cold chicken for. Safeway, on the other hand, was I think theirs was more like 6 hours, 6 to 7 hours. But the location I was at was busy, so you never really felt like they lasted for that long.
Yeah.
But you did check for them. Like you always had to check for the time on tags. So my first instructions to people is really pay attention to tags, because all tags will tell you everything. It will tell you the time that they printed the tags, which tells you the time that they pulled out the bird, which tells you how long it's been out there. Also, don't just assume that because it's a darker bird that it's necessarily been cooked all the way through. I find a lot of places have a problem with people not knowing where to actually poke the bird to check the temperature. And a lot of places don't check all of the birds, because a lot of times a lot of these places have machines that are really old or they're recycled. And so they're not really consistent. So when you go to cook the birds, you're actually supposed to check multiple spots, multiple birds.
Because the ovens have hot spots.
They do. And sometimes some birds are going to be a little bit overcooked because of that. So you really do kind of have to look at the birds, because, some of the birds are going to temp properly, but the one in the back might not. So you're not going to pull all the birds for that bird. You're going to wait until that one's done, because that makes sure everybody is done. So when
what you're talking about is the slow roasted chicken. They're really popular.
Yeah,
it's a huge moneymaker, a giant moneymaker for the delis.
It's worth it. It really is, for a single person, who really doesn't have the time.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying
that's why
it's
it works.
A high profit item for the they love selling those things.
Well, they do a lot of profit. Like the big store that I was at, there were days where we would sell like 300 chickens, and that was a decent location. And I knew places that were probably doing, 600, 700 birds a day.
And the grocery stores probably get them for less than $1 per pound.
Buck and a half, tops.
I'd be surprised if they paid even that much, because I've seen those going for like $6.
I'm talking about $1.50 a chicken.
Yeah.
Yep, that I could absolutely believe.
$1.50 per chicken. When they buy them in bulk like that, I guarantee you, that's the fresh produce business. It's a fascinating business. I did a bunch of work on it in B school on profitability of delicatessen. That's why I was interested in your experience, Jen, because I never got the chance to interview somebody who had done that. And all the stuff we did was mostly accounting stuff and on paper, but I was very interested. The delicatessens are huge profit centers. Huge profit centers for places like Walmart and Safeway and whatnot. And that was actually a long-term case that we did, was like a 4-week long case. Was do you put in a delicatessen? How much does it cost to put in a delicatessen? Everything from buying the stuff to training the people to the opportunity cost of what else you could do. What's the second best thing you could do with that floor space and counter space and all that stuff. And you do this gigantic calculation and put it together. And it turned out that the payback on the delicatessen was less than a year.
Yep.
And after that, it's essentially like printing money.
It's one of those things where you realize that a lot of people don't live in areas where they're necessarily set up to do everything. Like, not everybody is sanguine in that sense. And the
not everybody is sanguine.
That's just it. Not everybody has the talent. Not everybody
this
has
is true.
Not everybody has the time, and not everybody has the equipment. And a lot of people
getting that, Adam.
A lot of people living in a little apartment don't really have the time to roast a full chicken, because a full chicken can take an hour to an hour and 20 minutes. So if you have a rinky-dinky little piece of shit oven, some of them might even take longer than that, because they're not always good quality machines to begin with.
No,
hey, can I interject real quick? I hate you all. I mean, not really.
You're just getting hungry?
Yeah, because you know what, son of a bitch. Now, like I'm thinking about like a gyro and this like dude just like slicing off strips of fucking what is it, lamb?
Yeah.
And just like I'm sitting there like, oh my god, I haven't had a gyro in a long time, and these people are talking about all these like exotic meats and all these cuts and I don't know, man. The last thing I had was a salad, and now I want something like this, and it's making me hungry.
Oh, believe me, I was
So-
at the store earlier. I could have gotten one of those chickens. I skip weeks on those.
These fucking chickens, they're the turkeys. But you guys were talking about turkeys, and they're like golden roasted. Oh, they're golden.
We do those too now.
Rotisseries, yeah.
Sobeys actually does that. They have 4 different meals that you can get. As far as I know, they might have more by now.
Yeah,
But
you're not helping.
yeah, they had a chicken meal. You could get a turkey breast. It was a legit turkey breast. It's the same as the chicken. It's just done in a turkey breast.
You're doing this on purpose, aren't you?
They had a meatloaf. I would never trust the meatloaf because the
Is there
meatloaf always,
gravy?
the meatloaf
Get out of here.
had a gravy. Yeah,
gonna mute
it had
you.
a gravy, but it always looked like a brick to me. So I wasn't keen on the meatloaf. And then
man.
they had a roast beef, and I don't like the roast beef either because it was like a salt pack. Ugh.
Ew.
But
See, the
Like
thing,
it was like dry.
it's just the seasoning they came with. It was just super salty.
the thing that I'm at some point want to do, and I'll have to really hunt down when I actually have the space and ability to do this, is I want to get a taller than standard oven. And what I mean by a taller than standard oven is not just the heating element lifted up in the oven. No, I mean I want the interior space to be much taller in my oven. Because have any of you done hang roasted birds?
What?
Hang
I do
roasted,
something.
no.
I do something like that. I have.
Sounds like a dark
I have
version
a
of the
thing-
tiki room.
that you can actually take a bird and essentially impale it on and roast it butt up, which is what you're
Mhm.
talking about.
I,
Yep.
I worked with a rotisserie chicken network when I did.
Oh, that would be
deli work.
awesome.
So
Yeah,
I
rotisseries are
I legit
That would
put a
be
polo.
awesome.
Oh yeah, I legit put polos up birds' bums,
Yeah.
But yeah,
and there was
hang-
usually 4 birds a pole.
hang roasted chicken is one of the best ways that you can do chicken.
Yeah, because the fat drips all over the skin. It's pretty wonderful.
Yep.
It's
And-
even roasted.
What you do is you do hang roasted chickens with potatoes cooking underneath.
Oh yeah, and
Oh, yeah,
let the
okay.
fat come down on the potatoes.
Exactly.
Oh my god,
So you
that's
get
just amazing.
the chicken roasted potatoes with that amazing
Throw
hang
some carrots
roast.
in the last 20 minutes.
Yep.
You got chicken stew.
Yep. And just everything that drips down the chicken drips into your root veg. The skin
how
tends
did
to
the
get
hell did
really
we get
crisp. We started talking about food, and I took it further.
You got exotic.
But yeah, do that with chickens, and ideally, I'd want a oven that is tall enough that I could do that with other fowl as well. Because hang roasting duck. Oh god, a hung roast duck.
Do you think
Fuck
mixing them,
yes.
like having them tethered around each other so that their drippings go into one little pool? Do you think that would?
You could hang roast
Give
both
me a
of them
nice-
together, and it would produce a really flavorful potato underneath if you stuck potatoes under them in a roasting pan.
Oh,
That way it would
potatoes.
get duck fat dripped in as well as chicken fat. I mean, one of my favorite ways of doing chicken when I'm just dicking around and making a dinner is get chicken thighs. So skin on chicken thigh, beautiful fat in the thigh, and the skin, salt the skin so it kind of contracts up a little bit. Makes it so it browns a lot nicer. Then I'll throw in some duck fat into my cast iron.
I
Melt the duck fat, throw the chicken thigh skin down, bring it up to temp slowly so that the chicken skin really crisps up amazingly. Flip that son of a bitch over cook it until done.
I wouldn't necessarily do that with like beef or pork though, just because both beef, pork, and chicken tend to cook differently.
Yeah.
So like you could do it with the fowl because they tend to like they might tend to cook a little bit more similar in terms of
You'd
timing.
need to really time everything out proper for that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like duck is effectively red meat fowl.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only reason I brought that up, because like you can mix meats, but you have to kind of have to take that stuff into account.
Yeah.
Because beef doesn't take as long. It really
Oh my god! You
well,
know what?
depending on the kind.
Hold on. You know what? It is. Wait, it's still. Is it October 2nd now, or is
It's now October 2nd, yes.
Yes, it is. Oh shit. Okay, so I was gonna say, well, yesterday was October 1st, but we haven't even gotten here. But we are getting into one of my favorite times is Thanksgiving, because
Ooh.
now we can talk about all this food and just
Yeah.
think about this.
The feasting time.
Oh lordy, lord! I'm telling you, man. Just thinking about this, what you guys are talking about right now.
Yeah, ours is coming up really soon, actually.
Oh, and also because
Wait,
you brought up
Oh yeah, the Canucks have a different Thanksgiving.
We do. Ours is sooner.
because you brought up roasting animals together, one thing that used to be done during the Middle Ages is doing chimeric animals in roasting. So one example of that was the cockatrice. Have any of you heard of the medieval cockatrice roast? And do you know what the medieval cockatrice roast is?
Is this like a precursor to the turducken?
Yep.
Kind of, but not quite. This goes a step weirder. Skep, do you know what the medieval cockatrice was?
Weirder than a duck stuffed in a chicken stuffed in a turkey?
Oh, yeah.
Cockatrice? Like
Cockatrice.
Uh,
Like the mythical animal.
Yeah, that's what it's got. A rooster's head or something. Rooster-headed dragon kind of thing, like a griffin.
This isn't one of those gross things where like they like to do realistic reenactments with their food, so they like redress them with the animal's skin.
No, they
This
just
isn't redressing
Okay,
it with the
couple of
animal's
animals.
skin.
I call it a cockatrice. And I
Ah.
thought that was the thing that looks like a griffin, but with a rooster's head. I don't know.
It's
anything
kind of
else.
like that. Yeah. It's kind of like that. What they would do for medieval cockatrice roast was they would take, and they would typically have one standard cockatrice, and then they'd have a reverse cockatrice. So the standard cockatrice would be the top half of a chicken, or potentially a duck, some type of fowl. Normally it was chicken, though, for this usage. And then they would stitch the bottom half of a suckling pig
Oh,
to that.
okay.
And they would roast
I
them as
did not
one
know.
animal. And then they would
Alright.
have the other version, which was the reverse one, which would be the top half of a suckling pig with the bottom half of a chicken.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Just because they could.
because they could, and they would roast them until the skin was golden brown. And then they took it a step further by putting actual gold leaf in more royal affairs onto the bird before serving, or onto the chimera before serving.
No, hold on, Sanguine. Do you think that you would be able to produce something similar this year?
I could probably produce a cockatrice at some point. I'm not sure if I would have time before the year ends, but I could probably produce a cockatrice, yeah.
I mean, what would you even find? Like, you'd get like a small chicken.
I'd need to get a suckling pig, and I would need to get a fairly good-sized chicken. I'd want the suckling pig and the chicken to be about the same around.
Around the same size, though, right? Like,
I'd want the middle of each of them to be about the same circumference. That way I'd be able to most cleanly stitch the two together.
is it just two of them, or is it three?
It's two of them for that. It is a chicken and a pig stitched together in the middle.
Do you know what a synonym for cockatrice or cockatrice is?
What is it?
Basilisk.
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
In the legends of Roman and Greek and Roman legends, it was I think it was a snake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they think it was they think it was a cobra, because it's describing a hooded snake.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that too. The other thing with a cockatrice, though, is it's supposed to resemble, like, it's something that kind of springs up out of you, out at you like a snake.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of went to fantasy. Like with the fantasy version of a cockatrice, it's a mixed animal. Like it's a mixture between
it's chimeric.
yeah, it's meant to be like a mixture between a cock and a snake. And I say cock as in like the bird, the cock. It's not just a chicken.
Yep.
It is actually a little bit specific that way. I'm not saying that there's a gendered thing there. It's just the way it looks is always, that's what they call it.
Yep.
Interestingly enough, it's mentioned in the Bible.
Yep.
In Isaiah, you see a cockatrice, or it is referred to as a venomous serpent.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah 11:8. Interesting.
The medieval feast version was, like I said, a chicken and a pig stitched together. And there were a number of other chimeric animals that they would make for medieval feasts, which you can find in certain works. Like, have any of you heard of the form of curry?
No.
Can't say that I have.
Have any of us heard of what form of curry?
Sorry, yeah, that's what I was wondering.
It's a
The
specific
form
title. It is
of
the
curry.
form of curry. Is the title of a work.
Oh no, it's a book or okay.
Yes. So the form of curry is effectively the oldest English cookbook.
FORME of CURY. Samuel Pegg.
I believe that's the proper way of spelling it.
For King Richard II.
Yep. It was the cooks. Oh, sometimes it has an E at the end.
Okay.
So,
yeah, that's what I said.
oh, okay. I missed the E.
FORME of curry. CURY.
Yep. And it is one of the oldest cookbooks, if not the oldest English cookbook. And it is effectively made from a bunch of the remnants of the royal cooks that cooked for Richard II.
My. This is excellent. I'm so glad you told me about this. You can have it on Kindle for $2.99.
And
Are
it
you
is
kidding?
one of those old school cookbooks where it is a cookbook written for cooks.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really go into detail about how you do things. It will just say, do this thing.
It's the oldest English cookbook to mention olive oil.
Yep.
Okay.
And
How
it
fun.
includes a ridiculous number of different feasting foods, because like I said, these were for the king. So extremely high class, which also means that some of them are spiced to all hell, because that was the way of showing opulence at the time. You would include spice and sugar as much as you can, including sugar in savory dishes and spices in sweet.
Have you ever cooked with mace?
Yes.
What does that do? Tell me about mace. Explain mace to me.
What is mace?
Mace is a spice.
Yes, mace is a spice, and I'm trying to
Okay, so you don't know either. But
describe the
mace spice
way.
is
Yes.
it is it's nutmeg seed. Okay, I didn't realize that. Mysterica fragrance. Okay. All right. So it's just nutmeg.
I
Yeah,
could have
nutmeg.
sworn it had a slightly different taste. Okay.
There you
So
go.
it must have been mace mixed with something else that I was trying to place.
I just saw mace mentioned in this book, and I thought, I've never heard of mace. You know,
let's not get
what the hell
spicy
is that?
there, fellas.
Yeah, I'm getting all spicy.
It's
Get all
effectively just the way that you refer to it when it's stripped and then ground, isn't it?
It just says nutmeg seed. That's let's see, the lacy outer layer.
It might also be a term for grain too.
For what?
For grain.
No, what I'm talking about is
That's why I'm saying with nutmeg.
Myristicea fragrans
Mm-hmm.
is the scientific name is what I'm looking at. Yeah. Okay.
And yeah,
I'm on it. I'm on it. Okay. Neat.
It seems to be much the term when it is ground nutmeg. It tends to be
it's actually the
more
coating of the nutmeg seed. It's not the nutmeg seed itself. It's the coating of the nutmeg seed, according to one recipe that I'm looking at. It's not the actual inside; it's the outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so it's
you grind it.
peeled and then ground.
You just grind it.
It's hulled, and you separate the seeds out, and then you basically take what's left over. So,
because I have mace over on my spice rack behind me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Huh.
That would explain why it's a slightly different flavor than standard nutmeg.
It doesn't seem to be standard nutmeg. It looks like it. They take the seed, they hull it, and they grind up the hulls, and that's what they call mace.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
There's a number of
use a substitute for nutmeg. Okay.
Okay. There's a number of different spices that are an absolute bitch and a half to try to find in some of the cooking that I want to do.
What's the hardest spice you've ever had to find?
One of them that I'm still trying to find is asafoetida.
Asafoetida.
Yeah, it's a...
What is that?
Asafoetida is a spice that was used in a Roman dish that was known as Parthian chicken. And asafoetida is only able to be cultivated and harvested in one area of the Middle East, if I remember correctly. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. But it all comes from one section of the Middle East.
Yeah, well, it says it's Indian. That's what I'm seeing. And interestingly enough, it's got pharmacological activity. It's used to treat asthma, epilepsy, stomachache, flatulence, intestinal parasites, weak digestion, and influenza, but not COVID-19 because we don't want to get in trouble with Susan.
In the raw, it tends to have almost a sulfurous note, from what I've heard, but it has a more mild taste. So, have you ever had black salt? Not just the volcanic black salt, but the, trying to remember the specific type of French black salt, where it's a higher sulfur contamination in the salt. It kind of has that almost rotten egg smell to it, but it doesn't taste rotten egg.
I can't say I've ever had that. It says its flavor is distinctly savory, like an all-natural Indian MSG, and among Jains whose diets forbid alums like garlic, it's an important flavor enhancer. It's as important as salt to the Jains.
Yeah, spikenard, asafoetida is a pain in the ass to find, and then another one that I have trouble finding is spikenard.
So it's smelly yet savory.
Yes,
like
it's
smelly. And it's cut. You know what its nickname is? Devil's dung.
Yep.
It has a bad smell and tastes bitter.
So it's like that. It's like that spiky fruit, the durian.
Oh, durian. It's not like durian in flavor, but it does have a bad smell like durian has a bad smell. And it is supposed to taste lovely like durian.
What's your second hardest spice to find?
I'm still also having trouble finding spikenard.
Spikenard.
Yes, also known as
I just like
nard.
the name. It's ripping fun to say.
Yes, it's also known as nard, nardin, or
Say
mustard.
ripping fun.
Ripping fun to say, don't you think? It's fine.
So this one's not used very often, but I think it's actually easier to find. Have you ever tried cone pepper?
Cone peppers? That
Hold on, wait. Is that a spice or is that a phrase?
Are you talking
Oh, no,
long pepper?
Yeah, long pepper.
Yes,
That's
I
like
have
cone
long pepper.
pepper.
It's right on my
Yeah.
counter next to me.
Yeah, I've been meaning to try to get a hold of that one. That one I have looked up. It is actually fairly easy to get. It's just
Yep.
a little bit pricey. So
What
Long
is it?
pepper is delicious. So long pepper was used as pepper before the current black pepper that we all know.
Mhm.
So it has much of the same peppery taste, only it is almost cinnamony as well.
Yeah.
okay.
No.
And it works as a replacement for pepper for people like me that pepper just absolutely kills us.
Can I ask a question? Why do people like cinnamon taste?
It works
Because
really
it
well
tastes
with certain
good.
flavors.
Because it makes your tongue happy.
You have to balance it out. If you put too much, then it's horrendous.
Well,
But if
yeah.
you balance it right,
Hold on,
then
hold
it's
on,
amazing.
hold on. All of you who just responded, do you enjoy onions?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Oh, that explains everything.
That explains everything, doesn't it? Suddenly,
Yes, we
the
have
world
good
became
taste.
clear to Adam.
It's just cinnamon has a tendency to add a sweetness with a little bit of spiciness without it
Yep.
being overpowering. You
And
know,
it
and
complements sugar so well.
yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, long pepper has kind of that pepperiness of standard pepper, according to people that like standard pepper. But it also has that kind of cinnamony note. The other one that if you're trying different types of pepper, I would absolutely recommend are grains of paradise. Grains of paradise are, according to people that like black pepper and that don't have my particular issue with it, a little bit spicier than standard pepper. If you're like me, standard pepper lights your entire goddamn mouth, head, and stomach on fire, and it is an unceasing torment until several hours later. Whereas if you have grains of paradise, it just adds a nice little element of spice.
Yeah, that sounds good though. I might actually invest more into maybe trying to find some of that stuff because I know it's expensive too, but
Yeah.
I like to mix cinnamon with stuff. It's one of those things where I got a tip from a friend to add dark chocolate and cinnamon to my chili.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't gone back since. You don't use a lot. You really don't. It's like the smallest little nub of dark chocolate and in a family size thing of chili, and it just
Yeah, it's
creams
like
it up.
less than a teaspoon of Dutch process to the mix, and it
Yeah,
just
my wife puts a little bit of cinnamon in chili, and it's good.
It just it
gives it
somehow
a little note that's interesting. It's faint. It's faint, but it's good.
No,
Yeah.
it's not supposed to be like the first thing you notice though, like because the thing is, it's
No,
supposed
not
to
at all.
balance.
It's
It's
very
supposed
much
to
in the
balance
background,
everything
yeah.
else. Yeah, it
No,
balances everything else.
Hold on. Just real
It's
quick.
interesting.
Just a little fart note into my brain blip, but he said a Dutch note and
Dutch process.
a Dutch, and my immediate thought process was I imagined two like old Dutch dudes like
You were thinking of like the brown note, weren't you?
chopping
Adam?
into a dark chocolate, into a vat. And I'm
You're
like,
going into
I need to
turtlehead
draw this again.
territory there.
Well, no, this goes into a Discord bit that I had with Kefki, and I
Mhm.
wish she was here, but
Yeah, she's
but quick draw, like this is what I thought. Yeah, it'd be two Dutch dudes like fucking sawing a chunk of fucking dark chocolate into this, whatever the fuck you guys are talking about, chicken.
Chili.
Chili. Yeah, chili.
Mhm.
It's interesting. Natives in South America call where you
Wait,
live,
what?
Adam, the dream time.
The what?
I think you experienced the dream time in real time. Your imagination is so potent. I think you actually transcend this world. I think that's awesome. I think that's so cool. Dutch guys sawing off the chocolate.
Yeah.
Sure. Of
Okay.
course. Of course.
Hey, I'm just going by what they said.
Don't know why I didn't
They
think of
said
it.
that.
Yeah.
Dutch process, yeah.
Dutch process.
That is the
Got-
process.
It's
of the
a
Dutch.
Got the
particular.
little clog shoes on, little hats.
They did. And perhaps they might,
Bad
you know,
teeth.
take a break and start doing a dance.
Sure.
And saying
Little
it's a small
clog
world.
dancing. Yeah.
But we can't do that here because that would totally get us in trouble.
Yes, and they'll, you know, spread cinnamon over themselves
Because that's what Dutch people do.
well, and it's apparently it's a fancy spice. So
Yeah.
that's,
If you get a good one, they'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah, Dutch process, for those who don't
Dutch
know what
process.
Dutch process is a way of treating cocoa. So it ends up with this very dark cocoa at the end. It's uses it's an alkalizing agent, isn't it? Skep?
What?
That reduces the acidity of cocoa in Dutch process. They alkalize it.
Well, that would that would reduce the ability to donate protons. Yes.
Yeah, but I'm saying specifically that process because there's other ways of dealing with the acidity of cocoa.
Sure.
And the Dutch process, if I remember correctly, is chemically treating it with an alkalizing agent.
Oh
in order
man,
to-
I don't know. I don't the Dutch process on
dude, my explanation was so much fucking cooler.
guy.
And yes, it
It
is
had
with
dudes with like wooden shoes
I
and
like
tricorn heads.
it is washed and treated with potassium carbonate.
Oh! I know what you're talking about. The it's how they take the cocoa, the raw cocoa, and
Yep,
make
it's-
it edible, basically.
Yeah, it's the way that it's processed.
I have
And
heard of this, but
Dutch
I
process-
don't remember how it works.
Yeah, Dutch process chocolate or Dutch process cocoa is the way that it's normally referred to. Is they take the raw cocoa, they grind it up, then they treat it with an alkalizing agent, which in this case it was the
So
potassium.
they probably just oxidize the shit out of it. Is what I would guess is how they do
effective. They add potassium carbonate, and that
it.
neutralizes
Potassium
the
carbonate,
acidity.
and they're going to. Oh yeah, potassium carbonate is a base salt. Yeah, very
Yep.
definitely. It's like adding a lye.
Yep. So they neutralize the acidity of the unprocessed cocoa. And then with that, it produces a much darker but more mild flavor chocolate.
Like a pure
And-
tasting, right?
It's a base compound. I didn't
Kind
mean to
of,
say
yeah.
base salt in case somebody calls me on that. I meant a
Yep.
base compound.
And
I'm
it
getting
is
tired.
It adds an umami, is what it does.
umami. Yeah.
Well, hold on.
So-
Is this process something that is easily
it's one of the most
replicated?
it's one of the most common ways of processing chocolate is the Dutch process.
So we can make these types of chocolate bars. I mean, you can add your cinnamon. I don't
Well,
know.
this is
I mean-
starting with the raw cocoa. So this is starting with the cocoa beans.
I'm all for this process. I like this.
Yeah,
I think this is great.
you start with the raw cocoa beans. You kind of smash them up a bit. Then you wash them with the potassium carbonate. And when that wash finishes, you've neutralized the acidic notes of the raw cocoa. That then you grind the rest of the beans up, and you're able to use that in cooking, which is, like I said, one of the primary ways. And it's opposed to, I want to say it's just the natural process is the other main method, and then there's a couple other minor methods. And the natural process allows it to keep a fair bit of its acidity, but then when you use it, it tends to include mixing in some baking soda or the like in order to neutralize the acidity in the actual dish rather than making it beforehand or neutralizing it beforehand. So you can get Dutch process or you can get natural process. A lot of recipes tend to prefer Dutch process chocolate when you're talking about baking.
So you can control the acidity by adding probably it's something acidic. What is it, like cream tartar or something?
Yeah, if you want more acidity, then you'll add something that gives that acidity. So
lemon juice. Yeah.
A cultured buttermilk, for instance.
Oh yeah, sure.
In order to give
curdled milk. Yeah.
That
cultured. I mean.
Yep. You can add in a number of other things in order to add in just a note of that acidity without having to rely on the acidity of the cocoa beforehand. And then there's also a ridiculous number of different varieties of cocoa.
You know why they do it. I just from what you're saying, I don't know the process, but the reason that you would reduce the acidity is you make it able to be transported.
Yep.
It will last longer because acids are inherently unstable. That's why they're proton whores. They give up the proton. And they're looking for things to react with, and so it would change the flavor of it.
Yeah, and that's one of the other methods of natural process. It effectively just lets the acidity die off with an additional aging.
Yeah, interesting. Well, how late do you go? Because you've been going over 2.5 hours.
And I just noticed that myself, so I was about to send it round the horn. If you guys are game,
that's a shame because I found a couple more articles. I'll save them for next time.
Yep. So let's go around.
Damn, hold on. And I had a whole thing about chocolate and Willy Wonka's empire of candy. So. But yeah, I guess we'll save that for next episode.
The question is, where does he source his chocolate? And is it standard chocolate, ruby chocolate, or Asiatic chocolate, South American chocolate? And there's one other major chocolate producing region. Is it Madagascan chocolate?
I don't know.
Madagascar is a big cocoa producer.
It was whatever you guys were talking about, chocolate versus Willy Wonka. And Willy Wonka saying like, "Hey, I don't like your chocolate business coming in here," and then he started fucking torturing the Oompa Loompas to get more chocolate going and torturing more, Augustus Oops and.
Do you know what the South American Indians used to eat chocolate with? Used to eat cocoa. You know what they combined it with? Hot peppers.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they made it into a liquor.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah, kind of a fun thing. So
that sounds like it's going to be worse coming back up.
So you want to open up a.
But anyway, you're sending it around the horn, Sanguine.
Yes, I was sending it around the horn for people to give their sign-offs.
All right, well, I'm going to start because I have to finish my thought, and I'm sorry, Adam, but you really got this image in my head. Because you said chocolate, then you said Willy Wonka, and then I realized it was you. And since Willy Wonka made everything look like other things, I'm sure that he had a chocolate onion. It was an onion. It wasn't really an onion. It was probably just entirely chocolate, but it looked like a damn onion.
A bloomin' onion.
Hold on. Hold on. Can we give her a redo? Why would you waste that on that? That was weird.
I'm thinking of like the first scene, you know, like Willy Wonka. They're
No,
going to the factory and
I
like
got what you said. You
Yeah.
know, because like there's mushrooms and flowers and stuff, and a blooming onion that might be made out of chocolate. But
I just like how we finally found Adam's line for him to go, what?
what the
Oh no, we've
fuck?
known that Adam's line is the inclusion of onions.
Yeah, no.
I
we
mean, it
don't
doesn't
do
even have to
onions.
taste like onion. The thing is, it just the damn thing looks like one,
Even
right?
if it looks like it. No, get out of here. No, but go ahead, redo your line. So we're gonna
No.
start right back at
Adam rejects your sign off. Try another.
we're starting back at closing statements.
It could even be like those those little seahorse chocolates that are filled with like the hazelnut stuff. Oh, it's so good. No,
See,
No.
now I'm just.
Okay.
My
All right,
mind for
very
the
good.
past
Good
little
sign
bit
off.
has been filled with Choco Rocks.
I know, right? Now I want to go get some chocolate.
All right.
Let's go to Adam next.
All right. Well, that well, that was fun. That was fun, and
Mhm.
I'm glad you let me join you. And hey, SkepTock, it was wonderful chatting with you. It's been a while since I chat with you.
It's great fun. Love hanging out with you guys.
It's good to hear you again, man. My dude. But everybody, as usual, I love you all, and God bless, and have a good night.
Camel.
I'll leave you off with a quote from a completely batshit author. When his life was ruined, his family killed, his farm destroyed, Job knelt on the ground and yelled up to the heavens, "Why, God? Why me?" And the thundering voice of God answered, "There's just something about you that pisses me off."
Nice. Skep.
All right. Quotes about cooking and eating. I know a Thai proverb that goes, at high tide, the fish eat the ants. At low tide, the ants eat fish. Think about it, it'll make sense. But a little more uplifting comes from Aesop, of all people, and from his famous collection of fables. A crust eaten in peace is better than a banquet partaken in anxiety.
Nice. And because you went off with something with food, I think I'll go off with something with drink as a nice little pairing. So I'll go with a toast that I rather like, which is here's to lying, here's to cheating, here's to stealing, and here's to drinking. If you're gonna lie, lie for a friend. If you're going to cheat, cheat death. If you're going to steal, steal a heart. And if you're going to drink, drink with me. Have a good night, all. The zoo is closed.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
You gotta say goodbye, Adam?
Adam.
Saludos.